Hi, I'm Chris Haroun, and this MBA degree program is not what you think it is. It's better. This program is more than 25 years of business experience, all rolled into one easy-to-access online program. I've sold over 1 million courses in every single country. I've worked at Goldman Sachs. I have an MBA from Columbia University, and I've worked in the venture capital, hedge fund, and consulting industries. I've also started many companies, and my courses have been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, CNN, and NBC. If you're ready to nail your next interview, get a better job, get a raise, start that business you've always dreamt of, improve the one you currently run, or better manage your personal finances, then this MBA degree program is for you. I can't begin to tell you how comprehensive this program is. It's got everything, including more than 300 hours of on-demand video. I would have to do one of those dramatic opening title crawls from a certain space movie just to show you. And check out all the amazing reviews from students who have already enrolled in this MBA degree program. This on-demand version of the program is only $499, and it's more up to date than many of these old-fashioned MBA programs, which cost you well over $100,000. Not to mention, they don't even teach you the practical concepts included in my program. Last but not least, there is a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. And because you can access this program from any device, meaning a desktop computer, or a laptop computer, or a tablet, or even your smartphone, it means you can comfortably fit it into your schedule. Even if you work full-time, it's no problem. So if you're ready to unlock the key to your potential, then I'll see you in class. Good morning and welcome to our 91st weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way the call works is this is an AMA, meaning you can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, personal questions, career questions, etc. And the call is 3 hours long. It ends at 11 a.m. San Francisco time. And I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them. And so if I don't answer your question correctly, or if I skip it accidentally, please post it again because I want to humbly help as much as I possibly can. Now, what happens is within 24 to 48 hours of this call being completed, all questions that you ask are in the description field of the YouTube video. So you can just scroll through and click on whatever question is of most interest to you. We've done this for all the previous 90 weeks before today. So without further ado, let's begin, and thank you as always. Okay, first question is from Joao. Joao wrote here, for a first-time investor with a long-term focus of 20 years, where and what should I start with? Yeah, so I would actually take my complete Financial Analyst training course. There's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee, because I'll teach you based on my experience on Wall Street, based on my experience starting hedge funds, venture capital firms, etc., and working at Goldman Sachs, how to do due diligence and research on companies. And I don't think that you should ever rely on anybody else when it comes to picking stocks for you. Nobody is smarter than you. And the problem is that, especially with newer investors, and I'm criticizing myself in hindsight when I was a new investor, is that you actually start listening to people online to tell you what to buy, what stocks to buy. And you also watch financial television, you'll read these financial blogs, and somebody will sound incredibly confident. And so you think that confidence leads to perceived competence. It doesn't. We all have to understand that whenever somebody is trying to get us to buy a stock or an investment, that of course they're biased, because quite often they own that stock. And yes, they disclose it a lot of times. When these money managers go on television, they disclose what they own. However, they're amazing salespeople. That's how they got those jobs. Most jobs in financial services are sales jobs. People don't realize that. Another thing is this. If you see a CEO interviewed on television, don't get excited and buy that stock. Do your research first, because CEOs are the best salespeople on the planet. That's how they became CEOs. All great entrepreneurs are great salespeople as well. So I always want you to do your own research. And if you're just getting started and you're still trying to learn about finance and accounting, you can always start by asking yourself one basic question, which is this. In 5 years, will this company that I'm considering investing in be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? That's the 5-year test. And what that will do is it will stop you from being a tourist. It will stop you from just renting the stock. It'll make you long-term focused, make you an owner, so that you don't panic like everybody else. You know, Warren Buffett said that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. Think about that. There's a lot of emotions involved with stocks as well. And as Dale Carnegie said, you have to understand in business that people are often creatures of emotion and not creatures of logic. So just be level-headed, think longer term. Will this company be more relevant or less relevant many years from now? Then the next step is for you to create your own financial model. And I recommend that you do this. A lot of people don't. I recommend that you actually build out the financials from scratch. And the reason is because a lot of people will value companies based on earnings this year or next year. And, you know, in my career, people have said, Chris, you're crazy for owning Amazon or LinkedIn or whatever stocks I've owned in the past that seemed expensive. They would say you're crazy because this stock is actually trading at more than 100 times earnings. And I would always disagree nicely. And I would say, no, it's actually trading at, sorry about the issues there with the, there we go. It's actually trading at only 3 or 4 times my 5-year earnings estimate. And so the longer the view, the wiser the intention. Yeah, take my complete financial analyst training course. I teach you all about stocks, investments, what it's like working in a big financial institution. And I also teach you how to pick stocks. And if you have additional questions, as always, please let me know, and thank you. All right, time for my coffee. Yeah, great question. Okay, so the next question here is Majed is asking, thanks a lot for your time. Can you also please explain the Fed and Treasury Department in a simple way and also their differences? Yeah, sure. So there's something called fiscal policy and there's something called monetary policy. And monetary policy is just the policy of changing the value of money. And what governments do, and in the United States, it's called the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve will buy and sell bonds, which will increase the money supply out there or decrease. So if you have a bond and I buy it back from you, I'm a government, I buy it back from you at a higher interest rate, for example. Okay, I get the bond, I'm the government, you get more money. And since there's more money out there, bigger supply of money means that the price of money goes down, meaning interest rates go down. And so in the United States, that's the Federal Reserve that does that, and that's monetary policy. In other countries, it's usually called the Bank of something. So in Canada, it's the Bank of Canada. In England, it's the Bank of England. And in Europe, it's the ECB, European Central Bank. And in Japan and other countries, it's called the Minister of something, like the Minister of Finance, the MOF, for example. So that's monetary policy. Let's now switch gears and talk about fiscal policy. So another way to stimulate the economy, aside from cutting interest rates, is to actually change the tax rate or make these massive stimulus programs. And that's what the Treasury Department does usually. And so those are the differences. And so the way that governments stimulate an economy is one of two ways. It's either monetary policy, which is the policy of making more money or less money, which changes interest rates and demand in the economy. And after monetary policy, there's fiscal policy, which is the policy of doing other stuff to prop up the economy, to make it better. Like changing tax rates or giving each person in the country $1,500 or whatever it might be in order to stimulate the economy. Yeah. All right. Next question is about your complete financial analyst course. Does it help me to learn value investing? I'm a visual learner and reading books never worked for me. So I really like to learn value investing through a practical course. Thanks again. Yeah. So for those not familiar with value investing versus growth, the best way to sum it up is value investing is buying really cheap stuff that's not growing quickly. And Warren Buffett is the quintessential value investor. On the other side of the investment spectrum is growth investors, meaning people that like to buy expensive stocks that are growing quickly today. And they don't mind paying a high multiple for expensive stocks today because they know that years from now, that company will have a low valuation. And growth investors and value investors, it's quite contentious, actually. It's like religion or politics sometimes. They don't see eye to eye. They're completely different. And if you ever are not sure if something's a growth stock or a value stock, meaning if it's somewhere in between, don't buy it. Because quite often companies go from growth and they get too big and they can't grow anymore. And so what happens is the growth investors sell and the value investors don't buy it because it's not cheap enough. And so that stock is stuck in investment purgatory. And it usually takes 10 years to move over here to become value, to get cheap enough. And private equity firms sometimes will buy a stake in a company that's stuck in the middle and make it a value firm much, much faster to unlock shareholder value. So yes, in my course, I do explain that value investing. And one of the metrics that value investors love to use is price to book. And that basically means how much is a company worth if it was liquidated from the stock market, meaning taken private. And so the metric that a lot of value investors use is a price to book of less than 1 times. So if a company's price, meaning the market cap of the entire company, divided by the book value of the entire company, meaning what you can get from selling all the stuff the company has, if that ratio is less than 1, then value investors usually love it. They look at other things too, of course. And if that ratio is way, way, way above 1, then value investors, in most cases, don't bother looking at that stock. So I would start off by looking at price to book if you're interested in value investing. And you can also take my course and I'll explain it in much, much more detail. And once you feel comfortable with price to book, then start to value companies based on cash flows. Cash is king, and value investors love a lot of cash. Again, take my course. There's a lot more details on how to do that. It's over 20 hours long. And as always, I have a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. Thank you. All right. Next question is Joao. Hey, Joao. Joao's saying, hey, Chris, what is the best 401k option and strategy if self-employed or a company does not offer matching? Yeah. So what Joao is referring to is in the United States, your retirement savings program is called the 401k. In Canada, it's called the, I almost said RSVP. RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Program. Every country is a bit different. But what governments try to do is they try to incentivize you to save money. And you're allowed to save a certain amount every year. And if you do, and it goes up a lot, you don't pay taxes until many years from now when you retire and you take all the money out. So it can all grow tax-free for many, many years. And so the question is, if I don't work for a big company that matches my 401k, meaning a lot of companies, for every dollar you put in, they'll match a dollar as well, just to keep you happy and employed there. You wrote, what is the best option when it comes to this? We all have different tax mandates. So what I would do is, and I'm assuming your company is registered. If not, please do so, because the worst thing that can happen is, God forbid, something goes wrong and somebody sues your company and you lose everything and you can't provide for your family. But it all depends on what type of structure you have set up for your company. You might want to consider a Roth IRA or other 401k savings programs, as well as educational savings programs for your kids, which grows tax-free as well. And what I recommend to you, and you're in the United States, I know that because you mentioned 401k, which is what they call the retirement program in the US. So what I recommend you do actually is you go to LegalZoom.com. And I'm not affiliated with any company. I don't get any kickbacks ever, please. I just want to humbly help. But LegalZoom, it costs you $15 for a half-hour call with any type of lawyer. And so in your case, what I would do is I would talk to a lawyer that helps you with business formation here, and then ask them, what is the best structure to use for your 401k, or if you should use a Roth IRA, et cetera. And it depends how big your company is and how you structured it, but you might be able to give your employees, meaning yourself and others, a heck of a lot of handouts in terms of retirement savings programs, procedures. And I'm having trouble speaking this morning. That's okay. I got my coffee here. And there's also great educational savings programs. So the bottom line is, talk to an attorney and see if they can help you structure your company the right way so you can get all the best tax benefits. Thank you. All right. Dude, it is cold in here. Oh, I got this coffee. I got to show you guys this. You guys will love this. I got this for Christine for Christmas years ago. It says, I survived another meeting that could have been an email. When I used to work in big companies, it used to drive me absolutely crazy when there was tons and tons of meetings and we didn't get anything done. So anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. All right. Next question is, hi, Chris. I have a great idea for a startup that I know will work. However, I lack the technical expertise. How do I best connect with the right people? Should I find a technical partner and dilute my equity, or outsource the work? If it's the latter, what are the risks and costs of doing that? Yeah, that's a great question. So you're basically like Steve Jobs, and you have to find a Wozniak. And so Steve Jobs wasn't that technical. He was a great salesperson, a great marketing person as well, and a visionary. But he wasn't a techie. And so he partnered with a buddy of his named Steve Wozniak in a garage in Cupertino. And they made their first Apple computer there. So you got to find your Wozniak. How do you do it? Well, what you can do is you can network a lot. And you can download my book on networking for free. It's 200 pages. And I promise you it'll work. It'll help you to find your business partner, your technical business partner. So go to my website, harounventures.com, and download it from there. Now, when it comes to finding people and meeting with them in person, what I recommend doing, and I mentioned that in the book, is going to meetups. Okay, and a meetup is a free event that you or anybody in the world can go to on any topics that are of interest to you. And what happened was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, they kind of went to a meetup in the 70s. At that time, the meetup was called the Homebrew Computing Club. And they were able to find venture capitalists there to invest in their company. But let me show you what this means. So it doesn't matter what country you're in the world. You can always go to meetup.com and then type in your city name and what you're interested in. So in your case, maybe it's, let's just say you started an Internet of Things technology company. So you might want to look for an IoT or Internet of Things meetup and find somebody technical there. And so this here defaults, because of cookies, it knows where I am, that I'm in the San Francisco area. But if you open it up and you type in your zip code or postal code around the world and the topic you're interested in, then you'll be able to actually go to one of these meetings for free. I just clicked on this random one, explore food and drink. So you can go to this meetup here. This one's in Alameda. That's pretty close to where I live. That's close to Oakland, across the Bay Bridge. And this here is a meetup organized by somebody named Adele. And you can request to join. It's free to join. And then they have events as well. You click on here and you can go down a rabbit hole and just learn all about this stuff. It's kind of fun. It's free, which is great. And the only way that you're going to be able to take your company to the next level by finding a technical co-founder is to network like crazy, because your net worth is your network, and relationships are always more important than product knowledge. So best of luck with that. And if the advice I gave you didn't work, please let me know. Now, the second option you mentioned here is rather than potentially finding a technical co-founder, should I outsource the work? So I think that when you're first getting going, I would say yes, just to create what's called an MVP, which stands for minimum viable product. But I think that once you start to grow and generate revenue, if you want people to give you a lot of money, meaning venture capitalists or other investors, I think it makes sense to have people that are very, very technical on your team. And quite often venture capital firms, they believe that the jockey is more important than the horse, meaning the people that are working at the company are more important than the actual company itself. And venture capitalists and sophisticated investors would always rather invest in an A management team with a B business model instead of investing in a B business model, or instead of investing in a B management team with an A business model. So it's the jockey is what counts. That's the most important thing. And I think that if you want to take your company to the next level and you're not technical and you have a very technical product, I think it would make sense to bring on maybe a co-founder or a CTO, for example, chief technology officer, or a VP of engineering, vice president of engineering, for example, and give them equity in your company, because that way they'll be incredibly motivated as well. All right. Love my coffee. Love my coffee. I look forward to it, man. Every day. Like, sometimes I'll go to bed and I'm about to fall asleep. I'm like, I can't wait to wake up to have my coffee. It's so good. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So that's my vice. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Joao, who's saying, any tips and advice in starting a project management consulting business? What industry should I look at and the skill set to acquire? Yeah. So the consulting business is very fragmented. When people think about it, they think there's just a handful of companies that dominate, like Mckinsey, Accenture. Sorry. I used to work there. I love the company, but it's fun saying Accenture. Yeah. Boston Consulting Group, Monitor, Bain, etc. But the reality is that it's a very fragmented market. Like in the United States alone, there's over 100,000 consulting firms, and anybody can start a consulting firm. All you have to do is just register your company and then call yourself a consultant. I know it sounds crazy, but anybody can do it. And a lot of people that are temps or they work part-time, they have their own consulting firms as well. So when it comes to finding clients for your consulting firm, well, first of all, I would write a business plan like before you start any company, because I really believe that failing to plan is planning to fail. And if you want, you can take my complete business plan course. You can go to udemy.com and search for my course there. There's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. It's a 9-hour course, and I teach you everything about starting your company. And what I want you to do, all of us actually, is I want us to write multiple business plans until we find a side hustle that takes off. And then you can say sayonara to your boss and your company. If you're not a big company person, that is. We're not all like that. But you got to write a business plan first. So again, take that course, please. Now, when it comes to getting clients, the most important thing is networking. You know, your network is your net worth. And I recommend reading my networking book there, which you can get from my website. And I'll go there with you. You go to harounventures.com right here, and then just scroll down to the bottom. And you'll get my book for free right here. And I promise you, it'll help you a lot. It's a couple hundred pages. It took me many, many years of my life to realize that relationships are more important than product knowledge. And I remember when I was younger, like in school, if you work hard in school and you get good grades, your life works out well for the most part. Your parents are proud of you, you're going places, etc. Then what happens is you join the workforce after you graduate, and you keep your head down, you work hard. And then you start to notice that, that people around you that are probably not doing as good of a job as you are getting promoted faster. And they're getting paid more. And the reason is because they ask. There's a big difference between work and school. In school, you keep your head down, do well, get good grades, and life works well for you at that point in your life. But once you start working for others, you will never get that promotion unless you ask. You'll never get a date unless you ask. I'd ask 1 billion times. You'll never get a raise unless you ask. And everybody that's made CEO in these big companies, they've asked to be promoted over and over and over and over again. So you have to ask. You have to ask. And the best advice I can give you on how to ask is every 3 months, set up a meeting with your boss if you work at a big company, and simply ask them, how am I doing? Actually, start it off like this. You want to strike when the iron's hot. So let's say that you just achieved a big milestone, a work milestone, and everyone's happy with you at work. Grab your boss, sit down with her or him on an afternoon when it's slow, like a Thursday around 2 p.m. And then ask them, just basically start the meeting by saying, I love our team, if it's true. And I really love being a part of this team, and together we've accomplished a lot. And then you can say something like this, again, if it's true. It's really expensive to live here in this area in the world and to be able to provide a great standard of life for my family. And so I wanted to ask you, just what would it take for me to get promoted to the next level or get a raise? And then what will happen is your boss, who's in a good mood that day, never ask your parents for something if they're not in a good mood, right? But your boss will then say, well, you need to do this, this, and this in order to get promoted or get a raise. And then you thank them. Then 3 months later or 6 months later or a year later, whatever it is, once you've done those things, after you've hit a great milestone again, and after they're in a good mood, ask them again. Say, I've done all this. I love being part of this team and all that stuff. If it's true, I'd love to ask, please, for a promotion. Thank you. And the same thing when it goes to, and if you're not sure what you need to do to get promoted and you work in a big company, make sure you find mentors, Yodas, that can mentor you. And also make sure you talk to human resources if applicable. And there's a document that big companies have that tell you what you need to do to get promoted to the next level. So ask for that document if you're allowed to see it. And that's your blueprint. That's your blueprint. There's a gap. Fill in the gap. Fill in the gap. Yeah. But you have to ask multiple times, quite often, to get promoted. And there's a tactful way to do it. But if you don't ask over and over and over again in life, you'll never get it. It's the unfortunate reality of the world we live in. You have to ask for everything. Yeah. All right. And Joao, when you mention your consulting firm, like what I recommend doing is only launch that company if it's something you're incredibly passionate about. Because as Confucius said, find an occupation you love and you'll never work for the rest of your life. Yeah. Or a day in your life. God, I'm butchering quotes today, man. All right. Confuse us. That's what I'm doing. Jose, how are you? Jose is asking, hi, Chris. Thanks for all the value you provide. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Question in 2 parts. Number 1, what might you say is the right amount of time someone should spend thinking about their true purpose and passion in life? Oh, I love where you're going with this. Yeah. So, and before I read the second one, I got to show you, you guys know I absolutely love quotes. So I've got this great quote. I'm going to grab for you here. Right here. All right. I guess I'll use that camera angle over there on the slider. Hey there. Mark Twain once said, the 2 most important days in your life are number 1, the day you're born, and number 2, the day you find out why. And I don't think that you could find your passion work-wise until you get to a point where you get up in the morning and you tell yourself, I'm not going to work this morning because I have a passion. I do what I love doing. And so I say with love in my heart that if you get up in the morning and you tell yourself you're going to work, then with all due respect, you're doing it wrong. You got to find your raison d'être, your passion, your purpose. And it takes longer for some of us to find it. So for me, it took until my 40s. I kept changing careers, and I thought, oh my God, what's wrong with me? My happiest day, when I got a job at Goldman Sachs or Accenture or got into business school or whatever it was, got into a hedge fund, venture capital. For my happiest day was the first day, and I thought, oh my God, am I clinically depressed? And that wasn't the case. The case was I didn't find my passion, and I was chasing money too. If you chase money, you lose your dreams and your money. If you chase your dreams, as long as you're willing to fail at least a couple times, please fail more than a couple times, then your dreams will come true and the money will follow accidentally. But I didn't find my passion until my 40s. And it was teaching. And I wish I started teaching out of high school. I would have been much, much happier. I'm happy with the personal side of my life. My wife and kids are great and everything. And there's my 3 boys there, my 3 sons. But I really wish that I'd just gone right into teaching because I love it. I love it. And a lot of people that chase money, they're not happy, man. Like if you want to see the most depressed people on the planet, go to Wall Street around bonus season. The cancer of Wall Street and Western society is we compare ourselves to those that make more. And I remember it, and I'm a victim of that, dude. When I worked on Wall Street, there's always other people that will get paid way, way more, and it's bizarre. You're never happy. And the only time you should look into your neighbor's bowl is to see if they have enough. And the Dalai Lama said the problem with Western society is that we sacrifice our health, our entire lives in order to make money. Then at the end of our lives, we sacrifice all of our money in order to maintain our health. And then we look back and we realized we never really lived to begin with. So you got to keep searching for your passion. And one of the ways to do it is this. If you were, hypothetically speaking, been given a month off and you cannot work and you cannot go to school and you can't travel, what would you do with your time? Whatever it is, that's your raison d'être. That's your purpose. That's your passion. That's what you should do. And ignore everybody in the world that tells you otherwise, because it's not their life, it's yours. And if you care what other people think of you, you'll always be their prisoner in your own mind. You got to tell yourself, I just don't care what people think. This is my life. I have one life to live, and I'm going to do what makes me happy career-wise. And you know what? If I fail a bunch of times, I don't give a damn, because you only have to be right in business one time. All right. Next question is, in my country of Mexico, there's a stock brokerage that charges 0.25% commission plus 16% of the commission itself per transaction, buying or selling. So let's say if I buy $100 worth of stuff, they charge 29 cents extra. Do you think it's, it seems like there's a lot of hidden fees there. And I think that sounds like a little bit much. Yeah. So I would, there's so many ridiculous fees these brokerage firms charge us. So the best thing I can do to recommend, the safest thing, and every answer I try to make it generic enough to apply to everybody in the world, if I humbly can. Get a list of the top 5 banks in your country. And most likely those top 5 banks are insured anyway by the government. Call those 5 banks or go to their websites and find out if they have an affiliated brokerage division as well, where you can trade stocks. Most of them do, unless they've been deregulated in some economies. It happens. And call the customer service reps in all 5 of those brokerage firms and ask them to walk you through, like that example you gave me there, exactly how much money you're going to be paying in fees for every transaction. Keep looking. You'll find it. You'll find a cheap one. In the United States, they even have free brokerage firms like Robinhood. Great company. Yeah. So that's what I recommend doing. Yeah. And then you wrote here, thank you once again for everything, Chris. My pleasure. Stay safe. Thank you. And then you wrote, by the way, I loved your course on personal finance. It's awesome. And I'm building my portfolio with your guidance. Excellent. Thank you. And I'm here forever to help you out if I possibly can. And the great thing about that course is that I teach you how to fish. I don't give you a fish. Like, I'll never tell any of my students what stocks to buy because I'm not helping you. If I give you a fish, you'll eat for a day. If I teach you how to fish, you'll eat for a lifetime. Don't let anybody ever tell you what stocks to buy. Ever, ever, ever. Always do your own research because nobody is smarter than you. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Stella in the house. How are you, Stella? Stella is one of my amazing MBA degree students. She's in my platinum program. She's from South Korea. She lives in Seoul. She's got a wonderful attitude. She's smart. And she used to work at the Four Seasons as well. And she is going to be an entrepreneurial giant as well. So Stella, I'm so happy to have you with us. And I always smile because your attitude is so awesome always. Hi, Chris. How are you? I'm awesome. Thank you. I've got one question. Do you think it's possible to create an artificial intelligence based company that can change its own code? Oh, I love this. You always ask the best questions. And you wrote, I've heard that scientists have created an AI called Bayou that's able to write its own code. Isn't that dangerous? Oh, I love that question. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, and I just finished watching Westworld season 3, and oh my God, the cerebral intensity of that. Oh, great show. I love it. And the music's incredible. Astounding sonic architecture. You'll love it. You should watch it. I think you'll enjoy it. So I am somewhat nervous about computers getting too much power. I am. And I know a lot of people think, oh, Chris, that's crazy. That's just Hollywood crazy talk. I am worried. And, computers are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And if I say SIRI or ALEXA, a couple of computers will respond to me. It's a little bit frightening. But I'm worried that computers are going to get too much power one day. My gut is that, like the European Union, I love the EU because they keep all major tech companies in check. From a privacy perspective, especially in Germany, and also from an antitrust perspective. They're looking out for us. And there's GDPR, and God bless the EU, man. I think what's going to happen one day is a handful of technology companies are going to have unbelievable artificial intelligence-based algorithms to the extent that they're going to have to be regulated. And I think it's going to be the EU, it's my prediction, many years from now, that's going to create a standards body to regulate artificial intelligence-based algorithmic firms that become too powerful. It's like governments around the world. If a company has monopoly power, governments will force them to break up in many countries. And so I am concerned. And I love James Cameron in Terminator 2. And I think he's a brilliant visionary. I think he sees it as well. And Elon Musk as well has mentioned that. And if you want to learn more about this, there's a great cover story from Wired magazine in the year 2000. I'm an old man. I read this it was actually on my honeymoon over in Indonesia. And the cover story is by Bill Joy, who was one of the first employees at Sun Microsystems, which was bought eventually by Oracle. And Bill talks about how computers can get too much power and the detrimental impact this will have on society. It really is frightening. It's frightening. I think for now we can embrace it and it will help us. There's a lot of free technology we use, like what we're all doing right here, this free call. It's free for both of us, which is great. But we have to be careful because, technology is the ultimate enabler and it helps us to be much more productive. However, we got to be careful not to be too reliant on it longer term. But there are wonderful technology companies that use artificial intelligence-based algorithms that have helped to change the world or have made people a lot of money. And so the largest employer in Palo Alto, I'm sorry, that was an accident. The largest employer in Palo Alto is a company called Palantir. And when I used to work in venture capital, I used to have an investment in that company. I've sold it since. I've sold almost all my VC stuff. And what Palantir did was they created this unbelievable product. And it's called Gotham, and they also have Metropolis. And you can guess where that came from. Yeah, comic books, Dark Knight. And what Palantir has done is they have this algorithm, this amazing software product that solves the world's biggest problems. So a lot of banks use their product to combat hacks on their systems. And also the Obama administration, this is fascinating. The Obama administration used Palantir software to find Osama bin Laden. And without using Palantir software, the Obama administration would not have found bin Laden. And so it's a great artificial intelligence-based algorithmic company that's doing wonderful things. And there's a lot of very wealthy people that have created AI-based technologies that are making them billions and have for decades, and they don't tell anybody in the world how they're doing it. There's a company called Renaissance Technologies, founded by a brilliant man named Jim Simmons. And his son lives out here in Berkeley as well. They have a subsidiary here. And what Renaissance does is it's a hedge fund with thousands of Linux servers running in parallel. And what that hedge fund does is they pick stocks. The computers do. And they're very secretive about their code, obviously, but they figured it out. Year after year after year, they've made like 50% return. It's ridiculous. And they try to have a low profile. It's tough to do. But they figured it out. There's a handful of hedge funds that have figured it out as well. For example, if it's raining outside, then maybe they'll short restaurant stocks. Because if it rains a lot, people don't go out to lunch in restaurants or to dinner. So that's just one example of how that algorithm may or may not work. It's much more complicated than that. But I am worried. I am worried. And it's I remember back in the 80s, people were worried about robots taking people's jobs. And since then, society has progressed materially by leveraging robots for a lot of manual labor. It's helped. And just like robots helped us then and now, AI is helping us now as well. But we have to be careful. We got to be careful because one day, and to your point, Stella, it's a brilliant question. Yes, computers will be able to write code. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. And if you get a chance, read Michael Crichton's books. Michael Crichton was this brilliant 6'10" author. He wrote Jurassic Park, Disclosure, a ton of great movies or great books that were made into movies, including Westworld. But I want you to check out Westworld because it'll make you understand what could happen if we're not careful from an artificial intelligence-based perspective. And I'm glad these movies and TV shows, science fiction ones, are out there because it plants the seed and lets us all know that we have to be a little bit mindful of these companies. Even Facebook, what it's done with this algorithm in Cambridge Analytics to rig an election is disgusting. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. But I think what eventually every major government, kind of like how in big companies, there's a role called CMO, which didn't exist a couple decades ago. CMO is Chief Marketing Officer. That role was created. And there's a CTO, which didn't exist 70 years ago, of course, Chief Technology Officer. I think eventually there's going to be CAIOs, or Chief Artificial Intelligence-based officers in a lot of companies. And they'll work with the compliance department and lawyers in those companies too, just in case that AI gets too much power. Yeah. Great question, Stella. Always great to have you. All right. Next question is from Neil. Neil is saying, good morning, Chris. Good morning to you too. And the question, hold on a second here. I got a little technical issue. We're good. All right. The question is, what are the basic things that one should know while prepping for an investment banking interview? Also, what are the skills or keywords that one should mention in their resume so that it gets selected by the algorithm when getting shortlisted by employees. Okay, so when it comes to investment banking, the best way to prepare for these interviews is to have a framework, or what I call a crutch, to fall back on so that you can answer any question they give you. And so you can take my course called the Complete Job Course on Udemy. And it's the only course of mine where I have a lifetime money back guarantee. Personal, I give you your money back. Lifetime. And yes, people have asked for their money back that have bought it a couple of years ago too. I'm so confident that I can get you the job of your dreams that I put my reputation and my money on the line. It's a 12-hour course. It's called the Complete Job Course. And I teach you a ton of frameworks. In my MBA degree program, I go much, much deeper too to explain how to use frameworks. So when it comes to investment banking, the questions they might ask you involve M&A or taking a company public. So you should be able to answer basic questions like, how does an IPO work? And in my MBA degree program, I go into a lot of detail on that, a lot of case studies. It's fun. So you have to step through that. Or they might ask you, how does M&A work? And when it comes to M&A or mergers and acquisitions, if they ask you a case study related question and you're representing the buyer, then you should use a crutch framework as follows. So let's say they're interviewing you and they ask you, should we advise this company to buy this other firm? You got to think of a decision tree in your own crutch as follows. Is it cheaper to build the product yourself organically? Or is it cheaper and more effective to buy? So you got to go through the buy versus build framework. And when it comes to building, do you have the technology or the R&D personnel in place to effectively build that product quickly? And then if the answer is no, then the other part of the decision tree or the crutch that I provide you with is, do we have enough capital to be able to lever up, for example, and buy this company? And then the next step is this. You'll then think about accretion. You'll talk about accretion, which means that is this deal going to help earnings go up or down? And will it help the valuation get better or worse? Meaning, is the deal accretive, which is good, or dilutive, which is bad? So you'll be able to walk through it that way. And then what I would also recommend doing is they might ask you, how do you value a company? And that might be part of an IPO related question. And so what you want to do is you want to talk about valuation using 3 different methodologies if possible. Because in the anatomy of an IPO, when an investment bank takes a company public, what they do is the investment bankers and the lawyers, they create a sales memo that a group called Equity Capital Markets, which I teach about in my complete financial analyst training course, a group called Equity Capital Markets stands on a Chinese wall and digests what the investment bankers give to them, valuation-wise, and they articulate that to the trading floor, the salespeople that sell the IPO. And in that sales memo, there's 3 different ways to value a company usually. It's a trifecta. And the reason why they value companies using 3 different methodologies in an IPO and in general is in case one of those 3 methodologies is way, way off, you can minimize the margin of error. So for example, one way to value a company is discounted cash flow. And in your investment banking interview, be prepared to walk through that as well. And I teach you that in my complete financial analyst course. Another way to value a company is price to earnings. Another way is price to revenue. And if the company's not profitable, obviously you get rid of price to earnings and use a different methodology. And that's why people love to use price to revenue as well. Yeah. So that's what I would say. And also, and I don't want to just tell you about my courses. I want to give you other sources as well. So there's a great company called Vault Reports, vault.com. And you can get books here that will help you with consulting interviews as well as investment banking interviews as well. And they're called Vault Guides. And they're worth every penny. I don't get kickbacks from anybody ever, please. I just want to humbly help if I possibly can, because I used these years ago. So here, you could buy this for the top 50 bank employers, how to do finance interviews. Don't ever read this. I don't want anybody to be a lawyer in this call. Unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you. But you can use these books here. You can even get customized books for different investment banks. Like you can research Goldman Sachs, for example, where I used to work, or Morgan Stanley. you can buy individual PDFs, which will teach you about a day in the life of an investment banker, that sort of thing. Yeah. So anyway, you can go through these if you want to. Again, the website is vault.com. Yeah, I think it's a great website. Really, really helpful. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question is, what are keywords that one should mention in their resume so it gets selected by the algorithm when getting shortlisted companies? And I'm going to show you. And Stella, who asked a question earlier, I don't think you'd mind if I do this. Stella's one of my amazing MBA degree students. She has a great LinkedIn profile, and I want to use her as a model. So if you go to my website, and then if you go to MBA program here, and there are testimonials here too. So student testimonials right here, yeah. So let's go to Stella. Here we go. Hey, Stella. So what Stella has done is she's created an amazing LinkedIn profile, which we went over in my MBA degree course or program. So what she did was she put here the important keywords that all recruiters are going to look at. And you can create multiple titles. And this is one of the most searched fields within LinkedIn by HR executives. So she put here, entrepreneur, digital marketing. She's interested in digital marketing. So it's a great keyword to have. So anyway, check out hers as well. She has a really, really powerful, look at this. A lot of people don't realize you can jazz it up with images like this. She has a really, really powerful write-up of her summary on her as well. And we studied my MBA degree program, never to have more than 3 sentences per paragraph. And it's perfect. She's an army of one. She's amazing. She's the best. Yeah. Yeah. She used to work at Four Seasons. She understands customer service better than anybody. That sort of thing. So use Stella's LinkedIn profile as a model because I think she nailed it. All right. And then you're saying here, how do you ask a complete stranger on LinkedIn to give you a referral to their companies if they don't stay close by? Yeah. So I recommend going to my website, downloading my networking book for free, because I'll teach you how to get meetings with people you've never met before over LinkedIn. And my success rate on getting meetings with people I've never heard of before using InMails is 95%, always has been. I don't say it to impress you or impress upon. I say to impress upon you the fact that anybody can do it. So just get my networking book, or you can go to udemy.com and sign up for my complete job course, which has a lifetime personal guarantee by me. Yeah. All right. Next question is Vangelis is saying, hey, Chris, hope all is well with you and your family. Likewise. And you wrote, I took the GMAT on Tuesday and I scored 690. Excellent. Good for you. That's awesome. And then you wrote here, I live in Greece and I plan to continue my studies through a master's program in the United Kingdom and Switzerland. And then you wrote, can you share your thoughts on these countries? And you wrote United Kingdom, Switzerland, and you mentioned Netherlands as well. Yeah. In terms of opportunities for a career in finance afterwards, especially the Netherlands, since it has low university fees, but apparently fewer career paths. Yeah. So what I would say in general is, the best place to get a job in finance are the massive financial centers in each country. So in the United States, it's New York City. And a lot of people move out to the West Coast of the United States and they work in finance and then they lose their job and they find it hard to find another job out here because there's a dearth of opportunities in the Bay Area when it comes to financial services. So it's always the big cities, big financial centers. So every country is different. So in America, I would say number one is New York City. Number two is Chicago. In Canada, it's definitely Toronto. It's the financial capital of Canada. And there's there's other financial centers which are great, like London, for example, United Kingdom. Of those countries you mentioned, I'd probably list UK first, just in terms of I'm being intellectually honest here and objective. It's got the most jobs. London is a massive financial center, and there's a great area there built by the Reichmans, Canadian real estate developers, called Canary Wharf, where you've got a massive congregation of financial services companies. Yeah. So I would say United Kingdom first. And then of the other two, you mentioned Switzerland or the Netherlands. I would say Switzerland second, especially private banking for obvious reasons. Yeah. Next question is from Neil. Every time I see your name, Vangelis, by the way, I always smile because it reminds me of one of my favorite soundtracks ever, which is the soundtrack for Blade Runner, which was written by Vangelis. And Vangelis also actually made the soundtrack for Chariots of Fire, and he cannot read music. He can't read music, just like Paul McCartney. It's amazing. It's amazing. Who would have thought you can be an amazing musician without being able to read music? It's incredible. I love that guy. All right. Next question is, Neil is saying, are you providing any virtual internships at the moment, or are you planning to? I'm hiring, actually. Yeah. So to get a job at my firm, if you're interested, you can go over here to my website, HarounEducation.com or HarounVentures.com, and go up here. And we are hiring, and you can just click this and just read through this to see what we're the type of people we're currently hiring. Yeah. Yeah, but we are very short-staffed, and yeah, I'm looking to hire a lot of people, actually. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question is Asamina. How are you? Speaking of Greece, we got Vangelis from Greece and Asamina as well. And Asamina actually is works in the aviation industry at Ryanair, right? A great discount carrier in Ireland. And she's an amazing computer programmer, and she's working on a virtual open world video game that I'm going to play live on the air here one week, if she lets me. Yeah. So great to have you, Asamina. All right. And I'm wearing just a flanella today. Okay, that's all. Just today. Yeah, my wife is Greek, and so I picked up a couple of Greek words. One of them, when she dresses the kids, is flanella, means undershirt. Yeah. All right. And Pratik is saying, how do you deal with your sons? Do you allow them to follow their hobbies, or do you ask them to focus just on studies? My son is 12 years old and likes playing cricket. Awesome, very much. But his scores are very low. His average marks this year was only 85 out of 100. I don't like that score. That's a pretty good score for me, man. Wow. And then you wrote, I'm going to stop his cricket coaching. Am I right? Yeah. So I would, the way that I raise my kids is different. And let me get a picture of them here. Hold on a second. These are my three sons here. Let me switch over this camera here. More fun here. Yeah. So I raise my kids a little bit different. I want them to be respectful, to be confident, and to be good to God and all that stuff too. It's just the way I raise my family. But I let them choose any career they want to. And this is just me, and I'm not judging anybody. It's just me. But who am I to tell them what they should do with their lives? It's their lives. I expose them to a lot of things. I do. But I just want to raise kids that are confident and happy. Because the best gift a parent or a teacher can give their students or kids is the gift of confidence. Since my kids were born, I've said two things to them over and over and over again that they can repeat. I say, you never, and immediately they say, give up. So you never give up. And then I say, you always finish, and they say, what you start. So I just want my kids to never give up, always finish what they start, and I want them to be happy doing what they're doing. There's a lot of depressed lawyers out there. They're lawyers because their parents wanted them to become lawyers. Who wants to be a lawyer? Like I'm trying to think, are you a jerk before you go to law school, or do they teach you that in law school? You know what I mean? Like, unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you. But you got to choose your own career and your own fate, and just do what you're most happy doing in life. And I think to myself, don't I want my kids to be happy? Of course I do. Of course I do. I never pressure them ever to say, I want you to be this or that. I just want you to be happy. I want to raise confident kids that are happy. And one of my kids is really into streaming, and he's doing it here from home. Just quarantine's been awful, but he's streaming. He's starting to make a lot of money too on it. I don't care. It's just he's happy doing it, and he's trying to find himself. So, yeah, I don't tell my kids what to do. I expose them to everything. I do believe that as a parent, your job is also to expose your kids. So give me 1 second here. So I feel like I'm a waiter sometimes, like when I teach. Hopefully I'm a waiter with good food, right? But when you go to a restaurant, you choose just a couple items, but you look at everything. And so I feel as a parent, my job is partially as a waiter as well. I expose my kids to everything. They can pick one or two careers in their life, whatever, but I need to expose them to everything. And whatever makes them happiest, then great. I support them. I'm a waiter. A waiter doesn't tell you what to order. If you ask the waiter what the specials are of the day, they can opine and give their opinion. And, what movie is this from? Great Jim Carrey line. What is the soup du jour? And the waitress goes, oh, it's the soup of the day. He goes, that sounds great. I'll have that. Yeah. Sorry, I had to go there. I know every single line from the movie Dumb and Dumber. Every single one. Yeah. Hence, I have the same maturity as my kids. Actually, I'm like their little brother. But I never tell them what I want them to do. I just want them to be happy. Otherwise, you know what, dude? When you have small kids, you have small problems. But when you have big kids, you have big problems. You want to expose them to stuff. And if they live their lives trying to please other people, they're going to be insecure and they're going to be a mess. And they'll never be happy. Even if they make a lot of money, they'll never be happy. Never, ever, ever. So just teach them not to worship money as well. Just to do whatever makes you happy in life and confidence. And the most important thing you teach your kids, I think, is confidence. Yeah. All right. Next one is Saloni. He's saying, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Same with you. I would love it if you gave me some book recommendations on the stock market and trading. Thanks a lot for the webcast. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah. So I don't, let me just put this back. And I'll get a couple books. Hold on. Whoops. Got some glare there. All right, good. So I don't think that there's that many amazing books on finance and investing. I pride myself teaching based on my real life experience, having worked at Goldman, in venture capital, hedge fund industry, etc. The problem with textbooks and school when it comes to finance is it's so theoretical. Same thing with economics. It's supply and demand graphs. Nobody uses that in the real world unless you work in the Treasury or for the government, whatever, or the IMF or World Bank. But when it comes to books, like I guess the ones that kind of stand out for me would be The Intelligent Investor, which is written by Graham and Dodd, and that's Warren Buffett's favorite book. In fact, Warren Buffett, he went to my business school and he came to guest lecture one day, and his wife was there, and she's since moved on, God bless her. But his wife was teasing him because on their honeymoon, he brought the book, The Intelligent Investor. It's a good book to get introduced to how to invest and buy cheap stocks. It is dry though, I warn you. So if you're going to read it, wake up half hour to an hour early every day and just read it in the first half hour. It is a bit dry. I would check that out. And then there's this guy named Nassim Taleb, a Lebanese dude. I'm quarter Lebanese. And he, it's really cerebral, his books. They're tough to read, but I've read most of them. He has one great book called Fooled by Randomness, which basically tells you that you cannot speculate or be a trader in the markets because you'll be fooled by randomness. You'll lose your shirt. He also wrote a great book called The Black Swan, which deals with unexpected events in finance and in business. And so 2008, the Black Swan was the financial crisis. In 2001, it was 9/11, and right now it's this awful COVID crisis. But he's got great books. Great books. So I would check out those if you get a chance. I would also read One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, who used to be a portfolio manager at Fidelity, a big mutual fund. He ran the Magellan Fund for years. And he talks about how he and his wife did really well in stocks because they would invest in things that they understand. And I remember one chapter was his wife bought these, she went to a pharmacy and bought these pantyhose that came in like an egg thing. You remember those? I remember my mom had those. I used to put my Smurfs in them, the plastic things, years ago. I'm dating myself. But his wife tried them and loved it, and they invested in the company, did well. It's just one example of many. There's other ones you can read if you're interested in forensic accounting. One is called it's called Financial Shenanigans by Howard Shillett. And he started Sifra, a great accounting firm that I used to use a lot for finding shorts when I worked in the hedge fund industry. But aside from that, there's really not that much out there. If you want to learn a lot of the basics of finance, you can read books by a great NYU professor whose name is Damodaran on finance. But I think the best way you're going to learn in general is to actually just go to the Financial Times. The Financial Times is a great website that teaches you how the world works. And it's not theoretical at all. Let's go there together. It's kind of like the Wall Street Journal, but global. So if you go to ft.com, and when you read, when you read, you know what? I got to be honest with you, man. You remember in Hong Kong, how you had all that uprising, people fighting for civil rights and stuff. And then this COVID thing came out, and now nobody talks about that anymore. And a very small part of me, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but a very small part of me thinks that China let COVID get a little bit bigger than expected, just to get all the people in Hong Kong to go back home. A little off topic there, sorry. But when you go to ft.com, what you can do is just read articles that tell you how the world works, meaning economic stuff, high-level stuff. Okay. So, for example, this here, coronavirus latest. Italy buys or raises $22 billion in a bond sale. And just learn how the process works. If you click on this, you're going to have to pay for it. And I'm going to teach you how to get around that. This is why I'm not sponsored by them. All right, so if I click it, I can't read it. It's saying, hey, man, pay money first. I don't want to pay money. I don't want my students to pay. I want my students to get stuff for free. So if I highlight it here, copy, and then I paste it, and then I click it right here, I can read it for free. Pretty amazing, huh? Why? Because if the FT did not allow Google to index their stuff, then no one would ever find the FT whenever they search for stuff online. It works with a lot of websites, not all of them, yeah. And be careful when you go to Yahoo Finance. I don't want you to read any sponsored stories. So it's deadly. So if you go down here, this here is an ad. Don't read that. Just be careful, okay? There's tons of ads here, like right here. Like just be careful. Do your own research always. Never be biased by places like Raging Bull or whatever it is. And I did a vlog about a month ago on Motley Fool. You can check that out if you want to. If you want to, yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to stock market stuff, I would just read more stuff on the FT if you can. You can also take my complete financial analyst training course on Udemy, or you can join me in my MBA degree program. You can go to my website, HarounEducation.com, to learn more. Thank you. All right. Oh, 2 more books. I got these 2. I want to show you. These aren't finance books, but everybody's got to read this. It's required reading, okay? It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And without this book, you wouldn't have people like Tony Robbins, who are awesome. They wouldn't be as successful maybe because this guy kind of created the industry back in the 1930s. So this is an oldie but a goodie. Get the Audible version. It's an easy read. The way people interact with each other in business hasn't changed since this book was made. And Dale Carnegie has a great quote in it. He says that you have to realize in business that quite often people are creatures of emotion and not creatures of logic. Remember that when it comes to the stock market. Because Warren Buffett said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. And Dale Carnegie's also got this book here called How to Stop Worrying and I'm trying to get it perfect here. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. He talks about living in day-type compartments. Last thing I'll say on this is that Warren Buffett wouldn't be who he is today without this book. Warren Buffett he's brilliant, and he's obviously amazing at finance, but he's also a good salesperson, and he's really easy to talk to, right? He's like grandfatherly. Everyone loves him. And he doesn't have his degree from Columbia Business School, where I went to school, on his wall. He has his certificate of completion from the Dale Carnegie public speaking course that he took when he was 19. And he's publicly disclosed in an HBO documentary, you guys got to watch it, it's great, that he would never have made it to where he is today had he not conquered the fear of public speaking. And he took the Dale Carnegie course. And the Dale Carnegie public speaking course is better than any of my courses you can ever take. So if you're thinking of taking my courses, sign up for his first. Dale Carnegie public speaking course. It's great. I took it too. It's great. All right. All right. Melody, how are you? Melody's saying, hey, Chris, hope you're having an amazing and fantastic day. Melody, great to have you. Melody is an awesome teacher from Atlanta, and she's almost done with her book, and she's about to publish a couple courses online on Udemy as well. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. And then Juan David, who is, he's from Venezuela originally, and he and his mom came over years ago when he was a kid. And they live now in Chicago. And Juan David wrote a great book called Generation Optimism, which I wrote the foreword for, and the Chicago Tribune actually wrote a nice review of it, calling him a Renaissance man. You guys got to read it. It's great. So, and Juan is 17. I've never met him, but he's 17. And he's given 2 TEDx talks already. Amazing. Incredible. So Juan wrote, good morning, Chris. How are Dylan and Matthew, the kids? They're great, thank you. They're great. And you wrote How's School for them. And then you wrote, enjoy the time you have with them. Please do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the gifts, or one positive way to look at this terrible, stupid crisis we're in the middle of, it's awful, is you get to spend time with your kids. And a lot of kids, their first memories are going to be, the times they spent with their family. Like I remember when I was a kid growing up in Bramalea, Ontario, Canada. I remember once the power went out in the house. And I remember my parents, we made a fort downstairs so that we could stay warm. And I remember that well because we were together, man. We were together. Yeah, I lived on 26 Jubilee Court in Bramalea. I remember those days well. Miss it. But I think, and that's one of my first memories. And I think for a lot of us, our kids, some of their first memories will be this, bonding with their family at home. So there is a bright side. It's not very big, obviously. It's terrible what we're going through, but you do get to bond with your kids. And by the time your kid is 12 years old, you've already spent 90% of the time you'll ever spend with them. And so for me, I've got this beautiful opportunity now with Andrew, my 16-year-old. We exercise in the garage daily together, and we're bonding. It's great. You can't get that time back. Yeah. But my kids, regarding school, yeah. So Google's awesome. They've got Chromebooks. Which is how they're communicating with their teachers and class and everything. And my youngest one, even his teacher does yoga as well. So they'll stand up and do yoga during class. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty relaxing. But these kids were, like all kids now, they were born digital. So they adapt pretty quickly. It's the YouTube generation. Yeah. Next up is Saud, who's saying, how could companies with offices planning to move remotely use best practices and transform completely for remote working? Yeah. So I would say, I think that all companies need to teach their employees or get consultants to do it, to teach them on how to have a great video backdrop. And it's not based on how much money you have. It's just how do you use the equipment. Like there's a lot of people that have inferior equipment to mine that have much better video backdrops. And I teach about this in my MBA degree program as well. So I think that big companies should get training for their employees on how to have great audio, video, etc., lighting. Because you never get a second chance to make a first impression if you hire somebody who's a salesperson that's talking to potential customers online using Zoom. You want to look professional. as well. So I think a best practice would be how to set up great meetings like this. Another best practice, and I love this. I got to show you. I got this for Christmas Christine for Christmas a couple of years ago. It says, I survived another meeting that could have been an email. And I think a best practice should be in this digital reality we live in, where a lot of people are working from home and doing Zoom calls. Don't set up too many meetings. Communication is important, but over communicating can destroy productivity and morale as well. Yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Yeah. All right, next up, Zayan is asking, hey, Chris, what is financial modeling? Is it similar to a sensitivity analysis? Yeah. So financial modeling and sensitivity analysis is something that people usually do in spreadsheets. I like to use Excel. And so a financial model in the world of finance means forecasting what your financial statements will look like in the long run so you can value the company off of earnings or cash flow in the future. That's a financial model. A sensitivity analysis is something that incorporates changing a couple of variables to see what happens to the target price, for example, in finance. And so what a lot of investment bankers do is they have a sensitivity analysis. They build out a financial model and they think they know what the stock's going to be worth in the future. They have a target price. Then what they do is they create this little chart which has an x-axis on the top and a y-axis on the side. And on the x-axis is the expected long-term growth rate of the company, okay, part of what's called the terminal value, the long-term growth rate of the company. And here is the cost of capital, the weighted average cost of capital. And so if you change the weighted average cost of capital by a little bit, and also if you change the long-term growth rate of the company by a little bit, you could see what the implied target price is going to be. That's how people use it in the world of finance. All right. And give me 1 second, guys. I am just going to do a quick little check to see if there's any complaints. Good. I throttled down the bandwidth today to 1080. I used to use 1440, but a lot of people are having issues because of everyone's using the internet. Yeah. And even Netflix, actually in Europe, the European governments asked Netflix to kind of limit the amount of 4K streaming people can use, obviously. Yeah. For obvious reasons, I mean. Yeah. All right. Next question is, hi, Chris. How should I react to people not responding to my networking requests? If I'm polite as possible and also emphasize points of commonality, etc., but still they don't respond. Is it because I'm not approaching networking well? Are these people simply not receptive? Thanks. It might be how your LinkedIn profile looks. So I would take my complete job course or join me in my MBA degree program. And I'll teach you how to make an incredible LinkedIn profile so people will take you more seriously. Also, it might be due to the fact that your in-mails are too long. Let me, send me an example here if you can. Just paste the text that you use in your in-mails, and I'll give you my humble thoughts on why you're not getting as many meetings as you want to. Yeah. Okay, next one is from RP, saying, Chris, hope you're well. Likewise. What do you think about modern monetary theory? What's the impact to business? Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I have not looked into it at all because it's theoretical. Anything involving theory, I run away from. Usually the stuff I teach or opine about is stuff that's very, very practical. I pride myself on teaching on practical stuff and not theory. Yeah, and I just don't know. Sorry. All right. Melody is saying, I think by next week I'll be able to release your class on Udemy. Oh, awesome. Good for you. You said you're in the final stages of editing. Awesome. Let me know. Okay. Let me know. And send us the link here next week, or tell me the name of the course here next week. And then I'll go there and show everybody. It should be fun. Yeah. All right. And then Melody is also saying, I like the new advertisement you have for your MBA degree. No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I got to give credit to a guy named Adad Warda. He helped me out with it a lot. And usually I go over to Prague, the Czech Republic, to film all of my trailers. But I couldn't do it because of COVID, obviously. But what Melody is referring to is if you go to my YouTube channel, the main video here, and I think I started off today's webcast with it too, just go to my YouTube channel and you'll find it here, the trailer for it. Yeah. So anyway, or what you can do actually is go to my website, and then once you're at my website, you can click here to learn more about my MBA degree program. And then you'll see the trailer here, and then tons of testimonials from students, etc. Yeah. But we are actually going to be renting a museum here in the Bay Area to record another trailer. I'll show you. It's called the Hiller Aviation Museum. Not too far away from me. And we're actually going to be renting a 747, which is right here. You see the insides, to film another promotional trailer later this year. And I'm also having the graduation ceremony here for my MBA degree students that are currently enrolled. But this is great. And the reason why we're going there, we're going to be renting the 747, which is in the backyard. They don't have a picture of it, unfortunately, is because what I'm going to do is, as part of the next promotional trailer, is it's a little cheesy but fun. I'm actually going to be a pilot, and I'm going to walk out of the cockpit in that 747, and I'm going to go to regular class, and I'll say, "You've all been upgraded to business class," and I'll bring them forward to business class, and then I'll talk about the program. It'll be fun too. Yeah. Again, the guy that does my trailers, his name is Adad Warda. He is awesome. All right. All right. Next up is Omar. And one, I know you're asking about the YouTube channel. I have problems accessing hyperlinks here. I've tried it before. I'm sorry. YouTube strips them out. Omar wrote, "Hi, Chris. I missed your answer from last week. How do you transition from programming to finance?" That's exactly what I did. Yeah. It all comes down to networking. And you can go to my website, harounventures.com, and download my networking book for free. I promise you it'll help you out a lot. Or you can go to Udemy and take my complete job course, which is 12 hours long, and there's a 100% lifetime money back guarantee from me personally. I'm convinced you'll get the job of your dreams. So try that out if you can. Or join me in my MBA degree program, and I teach you much, much more about how to network and get the job of your dreams as well, and how to transition from programming to finance. Yeah. And then you wrote here, with respect to your MBA degree program, what are the upper tiers, meaning beyond $499? Yeah, sure. I'll show you. So if you go to my website, go to Haroun Education or Haroun Ventures, and then if you go here to pricing and FAQ. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my face from here as well so you can see it properly. So there's 3 versions of the MBA degree program. Number 1 is silver, then gold, then platinum. Silver is a one-time fee of $499, and you can start today. And it's over 300 hours of lessons. Okay. And you can take it on a desktop computer, a laptop, a mobile phone, or a tablet. I'm inclusive of everybody on the planet based on all form factors. There's a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee as always, and you can start today. You can start today, and you can finish in as little as 7 months, or take longer, completely up to you, and you got access to all the videos forever. The next version is called the gold version. Okay, and now gold and platinum, you have to wait until December because they're 1-year programs that I teach. And then after each lesson, I take questions. And I have 2 different time zones as well. And you can go through the rest of the FAQs to see the time zones here. You just scroll down, actually, yeah. So for gold, it's the same thing, over 300 hours of lessons. Also, 30-day money-back guarantee. And then accepted students start on December 14th of this year, okay? And you've got more than 200 hours of live Q&A. So that it's actually, the whole course is over 500 hours. Okay. And these are the important dates here. Then, and that's $999. Then there's the platinum version, which is the highest end version, which is $14.99, which is everything you get in gold, plus several hours of one-on-one meetings with me in person or using Zoom. Yeah. So check it out if you want. If you click enroll today, you could start today, and there's 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. There's tons of classes that are already here, and you can look at free lectures and all that stuff, and all the awesome student testimonials from my students all over the world. Yeah. And if you have additional questions, Omar, about that, please let me know, and thank you. Next up is Edwin. Edwin, I smile whenever I see your name because I think of my youngest son, the guy in the middle. His favorite baseball player, who used to play for the Blue Jays, is Edwin Encarnacion. And whenever he gets a home run, they call him Ed Wing, because when he runs around the bases, he holds up his wing like this. It's pretty cool. He might make it to the Hall of Fame. He's got over 400 home runs. But Edwin's question is, hi, Chris, investing a new business idea and doing an existing business, which is more profitable? Yeah. It all depends. It all depends. And I recommend taking my course called the Complete Business Plan course on Udemy, or join me in my MBA degree program, and I'll do that much more detail, because when it comes to companies, failing to plan is planning to fail. You got to write a thorough business plan. Most people never write a business plan, but I really do think you have to do it. And if you take my course, and there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee, if you take my course on Udemy, on how to write a business plan, then it's 9 hours. I will save you from launching a company that doesn't make sense, which means I'll save you a lot of money, heartache, maybe years in your life. And I'll also help you to understand if a business model works or not. And that's why I do these weekly calls, actually. We're in week 91 now, but I started doing these calls when I first released that business plan course, so I can answer questions as part of Office Hours for my students. Yeah. So check that course out, please. Thank you. All right, let me clean this up here. When I used to work at Goldman, they would say a clean desk is a happy desk. All right. The floor is not a happy floor. Okay. All right, next question we've got here is... Oh my God. Is that my son Dylan that just said hi? Little brat. He's supposed to be in school. He's 10 years old. Yeah. It's funny. Hi, Dylan. I love you. If you're watching, go back to class. All right. And then Kundan is saying, hello, sir. Call me Chris, please. According to you, how is Accenture different from McKinsey, BCG, and Bain in terms of work and the culture? Thank you. Yeah. So all those companies you mentioned have a strategy consulting division, which will help companies change their corporate strategy to be more successful. However, Accenture also has technology consulting. That's probably the best way to sum it up. Yeah. Okay. Melody wrote, sorry, I've not been on, but I was trying to complete this course so I can work on the next one. Please, it's always great to have you. And I always smile when I see it, Melody, because Melody was on the call on October 31st, 2019, when we did 9.5 hours straight. I didn't get up once. And I remember you did a conference call and you had a badass camera. You had a Canon M50, and your kids were there too. It was right before they went out trick-or-treating. That was a fun one. But you wrote here, what are your thoughts about making a subscription-based service for what I do? Yeah. So you'd have to tell me a little bit more about the business model first. But one thing I love about subscription business models, and investors love as well, is that there's great revenue visibility. So sometimes you pay a lower pricing point for the product, and it's like a magazine subscription, right? And a lot of times people are too lazy to cancel magazine subscriptions, which is great from a revenue visibility perspective. And a lot of these cloud or SaaS companies, SaaS stands for Software as a Service, SaaS. A lot of these cloud or SaaS companies are subscription-based as well, and investors absolutely love it because it gives great revenue visibility longer term. Yeah. Next question is from Edwin, who's asking, is a partnership a good idea instead of doing it yourself? Yeah, it all depends. If there's a gap in your skill set and you need that skill set to be successful in an industry, then a partnership makes more sense. So, for example, Steve Jobs, God bless him, but he was great at marketing and products, but he wasn't in sales, of course, but he wasn't great at technology. And so he partnered with Steve Wozniak, and who was a super techie, great guy. And so you might need to find your Wozniak if you're not super technical, or vice versa. And the best way to do it is to network like crazy. And you can go to my website, which is harounventures.com. And you can download my networking book there for free. It's a couple hours of YouTube videos, clickable, and a couple hundred pages too. And I promise you it'll help you a lot when you network, because your network is your net worth. And Vipul is saying, good morning, Chris. Hope you and your family are healthy and safe. We are. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Edwin is saying, which way is better? Branding the name of your business or branding your personal name? For example, Bill Gates' name is branded while Microsoft is also branded. Yeah. And Bill Gates, of course, he and his wife, Melinda, started the Gates Foundation. So they're leveraging their name. If you are the product, then I think your name. If you're not the product, then I don't think it makes sense to use your name. So if you start a technology company, you don't have to name it after yourself. There's hardly any tech companies that are named after the founder. However, if you are the product, like I humbly am for my business, I teach, then I have to use my name, my brand name, Haroun or Haroun actually. Yeah. We used to go to dinner when we were kids, and we'd wait for a table and they would say Haroun party of six or Haroun party of six. So I have to use my name. Yeah. So if the product is yourself, then your name makes sense. And that's why a lot of investment banks or law firms, they're selling the services of the top executives. And that's why they'll use their names in the title, like Goldman Sachs, or in venture capital industry, Kleiner Perkins, for example. Yeah. Yeah. Stella is saying, what are some of the trends we need to be keeping an eye out for post COVID-19? Yeah. So I would say that when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And so with crisis, at times comes opportunity. And obviously the human toll is terrible. And I pray daily with my kids that we find a cure quickly. But if in the unlikely event that we don't find a cure, then the trends are going to be doing more stuff remotely. And that's why, the market has propped up the valuation on companies like Zoom tremendously. So I would say that the trends to watch out for are, how do you embrace this awful situation we're in and work from home? And so in every gold rush, a lot of times the companies that make the most money or the best investments are the tools that people use for that gold rush. So for example, back in 1849, when a lot of people came to California in the gold rush, the companies that made clothing products and axes, and pixels, etc., Pixes, those are the companies that did the best. And in .com bubble 1.0 back in the 90s, a lot of the companies that did the best were the companies that actually made the infrastructure for the internet, like Cisco, for example. And so as you look towards companies that might benefit from us working from home longer term, look for companies that actually do extraordinarily well from making software-based products that help us do what we're doing right now, because they've all seen a material pickup in their business. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and Melody said, good question, Stella. I totally agree. Stella's got great questions. And Stella is saying, Chris, what are your recommendations for entrepreneurs who want to start a cloud or SaaS business? Yeah, it's a great question. And for those of you not familiar with SaaS, SaaS, that stands for Software as a Service. Yeah. So what I would do, and Stella is one of my MBA degree students. Stella, in semesters 3 and 4, we're currently in semester 2. She's part of the Platinum program for the MBA degree. In semesters 3 and 4, I'm going to run a venture capital boot camp. As I've done it before at places where I've guest lecture at Stanford, etc. So I'm going to do that. And you'll get an opportunity to write a business plan. I'll help you a lot with it if I humbly can. And your classmates will as well. And when it comes to SaaS, you got to make sure that it's a product that people will want to pay a subscription for longer term. And the best SaaS example I can think of is Netflix. So that it is software as a service or media as a service, maybe MaaS, if that's even a term. But you have to build a financial model so you can understand what the model is going to look like longer term in terms of repeatable subscription-based revenue streams. So for example, the reason that Salesforce has done so well, and Salesforce.com is the largest employer in San Francisco. One of the reasons they've done incredibly well is they realized that if we charge a lower pricing point for our software, and instead of people downloading software on their computers, they run it in the cloud, we can charge them a smaller amount, but every single quarter or month, we can still charge them something because they get free upgrades quarterly. They call it the seasonal changes, summer, spring, winter, fall upgrades. And they get great customer support as well. Yeah. And even Amazon is going there too, with kind of shopping as a subscription service. So a lot of times you can buy products and get 5% off if you subscribe to them. So they come to your house every month or so as a subscription. And investors love that stuff because there's great revenue visibility. And so again, during the second half of our MBA degree program, we're going to work on creating a business plan as part of a venture capital boot camp. And I'll definitely help you out, if I humbly can, with your SaaS business model ideas. Yeah. And then Stella is asking, why does Amazon continue to dominate the cloud computing space? Great question. Yeah. So what happened was, and a lot of people don't realize that one of the reasons why Amazon has a very, very large market cap is not because of their retail business, meaning not because you and I order stuff online. It's because they're the most important software company in the history of the world. And what I mean by this is back in 2005, Amazon realized that every November, they couldn't fulfill all the holiday shopping needs for all their customers. And so what Jeff Bezos did was he built 9 big buildings across the United States. And in these 9 buildings, he put thousands and thousands of servers. And every November, he'd light them up. He'd turn them on so they can get all the holiday shopping needs, gifts fulfilled. And then every January, he realized that we have all this excess capacity that we're not using. And so he started renting it out. And unlike Microsoft, so Microsoft only cut the pricing point of Windows, which is a platform. Microsoft only cut the pricing point of Windows 3 times from the 1980s until recently. Unlike Microsoft, what Jeff Bezos did at Amazon was he cut the pricing point on that software every single quarter, and he's cut it basically 100 times since, which is unheard of in software to cut prices like that. And as a result, and because he scaled the business tremendously, he's able to have a very profitable business where other companies can rent that computing space. And so the reason why Netflix is cheap and you get all this great content like the Ozarks, great show, etc. I don't know if you guys watched the most recent season, but on the very last episode, every single character died. It was just terrible. I'm totally kidding. That's not what happened, but it is surprising the last episode. But so Netflix can use Amazon Web Services and rent that platform. And so most of the computers they use is actually renting Amazon servers. The same thing with Airbnb. The only reason that they're relevant is because they run entirely off of Amazon Web Services. And the same thing with Lyft, Uber, etc. All these great companies run off of Amazon Web Services. It's very, very disruptive. Very disruptive. And there's other competing offerings as well. Like Google has the Google Compute Engine, or GCE. And then Microsoft has something called Azure, which was kind of started by Satya Nadella, who's the brilliant new CEO of Microsoft. He's doing a great job as well. And I wrote an article a couple of years ago in Venture Beats and Wired Magazine, a bunch of other places online, comparing Amazon Web Services to the Berlin Wall. Let me get a piece of the Berlin Wall. Hold on a second. I was in Berlin last year for a great Udemy event, and I went to Checkpoint Charlie, and I bought this wonderful piece of the Berlin Wall. And I've written about how the fall of the Berlin Wall is just like Amazon Web Services from a business perspective. And the reason I say that is because what people don't realize, and Alan Greenspan taught me this, me and everybody else at Citadel. I worked at a big hedge fund called Citadel, and every year we'd have a guest speaker. And one year it was Alan Greenspan. It was amazing. But Alan Greenspan said the reason we had unprecedented economic growth in the 1990s was not because of technology companies, not because of .com, but it was because the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. And when the Berlin Wall fell, what happened was you had millions of brilliant people from Eastern Europe. They were low-cost labor, millions of them moving west. And the biggest input when it comes to making any products or services is the price of labor. And because the price of labor stayed artificially low and went down in the 90s, what happened was prices of everything else did not increase, meaning inflation didn't go up. And because inflation did not increase, then what happened was you had unbelievable economic growth in the 90s. And so I believe that Amazon Web Services is this generation's Berlin Wall teardown event. Amazon Web Services is just like the Berlin Wall falling because it makes the prices of everything artificially low, which is a great thing. Prices are not going up. And I know demand is anemic right now because of this terrible COVID crisis. But I really do believe that Amazon has done its part over the past 15 years of keeping prices low. Inflation is low partially because of Amazon. It's kind of like what Walmart did back in the 70s and 80s with their EDLP pricing strategy. EDLP stands for everyday low pricing. Yeah. So Amazon's a force to be reckoned with. And it's this generation's Berlin Wall. All right. All right. And then, and also with Jeff Bezos, Stella, like he's so long-term focused. Like he doesn't even bother getting on the earnings calls for Amazon. And he doesn't really care about short-term investors. He's so long-term focused. And also he is obsessed with customer service. And I agree with him that, a company is only as good as its customer service. And if you get a chance, do a search on Jeff Bezos' interview from the 90s on YouTube. He does an interview with this confrontational person interviewing him who's arguing with him that, customer service and earnings and cash flow do not align in the long run. They certainly do. And as Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. All right. Next question is, what are a few of the biggest problems you believe we need to focus on solving in today's age? Yeah. I think income distribution. It's ridiculous that extraordinarily wealthy people actually pay less in taxes on a percent basis than people that aren't that wealthy. And Warren Buffett is very vocal about this. He has stated publicly that it's not fair that his assistants pay higher taxes percent-wise than he does. Yeah. Now, I am a capitalist. I'm probably more of a libertarian than a Republican or Democrat. But I do believe that what's going to happen, and this whole COVID crisis is awful because it's impacting people that have less money, much more so than people that have a lot of money. And so I think what's going to happen is some sort of Robin Hood redistribution. I say Robin Hood because you rob from the rich and give to the poor. I think what will happen is people that make a ton of money will have to pay higher taxes. It's just going to happen. It has to happen because You can't create trillions and trillions of dollars in global stimuluses without any sort of debt repercussion. And so I think what's going to happen is very, very wealthy companies and people are going to pay higher taxes in the long run. And I think that's the right call. I think it's the right call because we're all in this together. Yeah. And I think that countries, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of countries are going to declare bankruptcy because of the debt they're taking on. I won't tell you which ones, but history does repeat itself. Like back in the early 90s, there was the Latin American debt crisis, and some countries basically defaulted on their debt and went bankrupt. And also in the late 80s, or in the 1980s, New York City went bankrupt as well. And Orange County about 10 years ago, which is in Southern California, declared bankruptcy as well. Governments can go under, meaning they can get to a point where they can't repay their debts. And that's why I always advise for all my students to make sure you don't have all of your money in one currency or one country for that matter. You got to diversify, which is what I teach about in a lot of detail in my MBA degree program. So it's scary. These are scary times. And so I think what's going to happen is those that have a lot more are going to have to pay much, much higher taxes in the long run. They have to. They have to. Because you can't create all this ridiculous debt globally, these stimulus programs, without some sort of repercussion. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, and Stella, you always have great questions. Thank you. Stella is asking, what skills do you believe are mission critical for the future? I think that the same skills that made people successful in the past, business-wise, are important now, meaning the ability to network, the ability to inspire people. And there's a great book you have to all read, which I've mentioned before. Let me grab it again. Hold on. This is the best business book ever written. It's by Dale Carnegie, called How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you're too busy to read it, get an Audible subscription from audible.com. I'm not comped by anybody ever. Please, I just want to humbly help. Read this book because it teaches you how to deal with people. And relationships are always more important than product knowledge. And a big rookie mistake in business is people will sit down for a business meeting and they'll talk about business right away. You got to bond. You got to bond first. Bond before business. Always, always, always. So I do think that networking skills are key. And it doesn't matter that we're using more technology than we did in the past. It's still all about networking. And instead of setting up coffee meetings or tea meetings for networking, you can use the methodologies that I teach in my networking book, which you can get for free on my website, harounventures.com. But you can network for a coffee or tea using Zoom as well. Not many people are asking. Not many people are networking this way, but it's worked out incredibly well. One of my amazing students in my MBA degree program, Jose, he lives in Brooklyn and he has a payments business and he's able to set up a ton of networking meetings using the methodologies I teach and by using Zoom. Another skill set I think is very, very important, mission critical for the future, is to understand how to set up a great webcam experience, how to have great audio, great lighting, etc. And you can do it on the cheap and use what you have. You don't have to buy new stuff. And I'm going to be teaching all of my MBA degree program students in semesters 3 and 4 how to do this as well. Because you never get that second chance to make a great first impression. That's a cheesy line from a Head & Shoulders commercial from the 1980s. Hi, I'm old. I'm dating myself. But it's true, though. You never get that second chance. And so if you're trying to get new customers and you're setting up meetings like this using Zoom, I think having a great backdrop and great video experience is of paramount importance. And also the ability to use different technologies is important, especially social media. You got to stay on top of all social media trends. And you got to be comfortable with putting yourself out there and creating content, videos, etc., and not being perfect. As Salvador Dali said, if you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it. So you just got to be comfortable with creating a lot of social media stuff, repurposing your content, and just not caring what people think of you. I'm not telling you to be rude or disingenuous, but just understand that you won't be perfect with all your social media stuff, but you got to consistently create social media stuff. And YouTube is the biggest gold rush in history. And it's the only gold rush in history where it costs you nothing to make the product. And it's the only gold rush in history where you have immediate potential access to billions of customers for free. And I think we're all going to look back and say, gosh, I wish I'd created more YouTube content. Everybody should be creating YouTube content. It's free. And then once you create that YouTube content, you can repurpose that content on different social media platforms. Like you can take small little, and you'll notice actually a lot of you that my weekly call is actually my vlog. So I do this weekly call every week from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. San Francisco time. And then I create vlogs for the next 7 days based on this call. And then I create also Instagrams based on the shorter video snippets. I do 3 Instagrams per week. And this entire call is repurposed also for a podcast, which of course is Audible only. And I do LinkedIn videos and all that stuff. But it all comes from the same source, which is this one call. I repurpose everything. And you got to think like Nintendo, which is the best tech company ever because they've been in business for more than 100 years. What Nintendo does is they figured out how to repurpose their older content over and over again. For example, if you played Mario on the 8-bit or 16-bit or 64-bit versions of their consoles, you'll notice that all those games have been repurposed on the Wii, Wii U, Switch, etc. And it's a very high margin business for them as well. They just repurpose older content. And you have to do the same thing when it comes to social media as well. You got to think of repurposing. Create a video and then use parts of that video or maybe even just the script of the video and make that an article or a tweet or whatever it is. It's free to do and it's the best way to advertise for your business as well. And you gotta observe how your kids consume technology and they communicate, because a lot of times the older generation, old people like me, we just don't get it, you know. And my kids' jobs and the way they communicate in the future hasn't been invented yet. You got to observe the younger generation, how they leverage technology. Yeah. Otherwise, what happens is you're kind of left in the dust. Like a lot of these great media companies, they realize that, oh my goodness, the younger generation grew up watching YouTube and they don't watch television. What do we do? And they're freaking out. And that's why I really do believe that a lot of these big media companies, they create this fear factor, so to speak, when it comes to news, because they're losing market share. And they're motivated by long-term profitability and margins, of course. And so they'll kind of do things that drive me nuts. Like you're watching television, the news, and they'll say, find out why the world might end next year after the commercial break. Of course, I'm exaggerating there. But it's the older generation that are finally realizing that the younger generation that have now grown up and are becoming consumers, they consume over YouTube. And if YouTube is down, they use TikTok, which is fun. And they also use Twitch. They don't watch television. And I love it because the younger generation is much more positive than the old generation. You know, when I was younger, I remember my parents would watch 60 Minutes on Sunday nights. And I'd be around them as well. And I'd watch it with them if I was there. And it was kind of scary. Like they talk about, I remember, God, it was the 80s, early 80s. I remember when interest rates were ridiculously high. Then it was the Cold War, the fear factor there, you know. Then, of course, it was Gulf War I and II and all that stuff. And I'd be around my parents. My parents are very positive people. They're awesome. But the media was somewhat negative. Now the younger generation, they don't hang out with their parents watching TV. You know, quite often they'll hang out in the living room where they do have a TV, and the TV is off because they'll be on the couch watching YouTube on, you know, their handsets. And because of that, I believe that the younger generation that has grown up digital, they've all been blessed with a digital marketing MBA by the time they're, a teenager, because they watch these happy-go-lucky people on YouTube or Twitch or whatever it is, just creating these fun experiences and marketing themselves. So they understand marketing and technology, and they're not as negative as the older generations, like me, for example, because they don't watch television and all that fear stuff that the media is putting out there. Yeah, I really believe the media overdoes it a lot when it comes to fear. Yeah. All right, Asamina, how are you? Asamina is saying, first thing, sorry I vanished. No worries at all. It's always great to have you. And then you wrote, I've been missing my alarms for the live call while working on my game documents and hanging out with my family. Family first, please. Yeah, and I can't wait to see your game too. It's going to put Rockstar out of business, right? Yeah. I can't believe that GTA 5 is still as popular as it was years ago. I think it was Steam was giving away a big discount on it last week, which caused Steam to crash. But I still play GTA 5. It's a masterpiece. It just kills me that The Last of Us Part 2 by Naughty Dog Studios has been delayed again. I want to play that game. But I'm still playing actually at Red Dead Redemption 2 by Rockstar Games. I love it. It's great. And you can learn about history in the Wild Wild West in 1899 in America. Yeah. All right. And then Stella's saying, how can brands remain influential post-COVID-19? Yeah. Well, I really believe in what Mark Cuban said, which is the way that big companies deal with this COVID crisis right now, from being socially responsible, the way they deal with it is going to set the tone for public perception on their brands for the next couple of decades. We are all in this together. We're all in this together. And I really believe that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And for a lot of us, just staying home is the solution, which is great. You're doing your part. And for me, I gave away more than 1 million of my courses for free in the month of March. And I did it because I care deeply about this world. And I'm worried about places like Egypt, for example, where 100 million people live close to each other because of the Nile, right? Can't live in the desert. I'm worried about the COVID crisis spreading there. And so I gave away over 1 million of my courses. And, it's kind of an effort to make people, stay home and kind of keep this working better and teach them how to be productive and start their own side hustles online. We're all in this together. And actually, that cost me because I had to hire a couple extra people to do all the Q&As. And my ratings went down. So I don't care. We're all in this together. But I really do believe what Mark Cuban said, that, the way that you treat your customers now is, and your brand perception today is going to resonate for the next couple of decades. And it's amazing how fast companies have changed. Like, companies always change faster than governments, obviously. But if you go to any website for any company, you can see how they've changed on a dime quickly to be able to cater to, this whole awful COVID situation we're in. Yeah. All right, Himanshu, how are you? Himanshu is saying, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Your courses are worth it. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then you wrote, I don't think one needs to go to college for doing an MBA. If he has a network plus your teaching, then it's more sufficient. Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's why I do what I do. Humbly help if I possibly can. Yeah, thank you. Asamina is saying, I have some of the pitches for the game ready, but the one I share mostly is the 10-page one. Okay, cool. And then you wrote, I can't wait to see it. Also soon, I'll go meet with a friend to discuss getting a pilot's license. Oh, very cool. How fun is that? Yeah. Play Flight Simulator by Microsoft. I think they still make that, right? Yeah. It's awesome. Very cool. I can't wait to see your game. Hey, Tian, it's been a while. Tian said, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Best wishes to your family likewise. And thank you for joining us. And you wrote, my question for today is, I learned from you that we need to ask to be success, but there shouldn't, but there should be a downside there. If we ask for promotion a lot, it could become a reverse effect, right? Yeah. Well, you don't want to overdo it. It's like my youngest son, he'll say, can I play GTA? I'm like, no, dude, you're 10. Right. And then he'll say, when? I said, when you're older. A minute later, he'll say, can I play GTA now? No. Next day, how about today? I got older than I was yesterday. Relentless, which is a great thing. You got to be relentless like that, but you can't overdo it. Absolutely. So I don't think you have to ask for a promotion, every month. Maybe it's once a year or once every 6 months as you sit down with your boss and provide him with just your thoughts on the corporate strategy and what you've contributed to the team and that sort of thing. And you want to strike while the iron's hot, kind of like asking your mom and dad for something only when they're in a good mood. Yeah. But you have to ask, otherwise you'll never get it. It's like a date. You'll never get a date if you don't ask. You never will. You just got to ask. Yeah, you have to. You have to. Yeah. All right. And by the way, if you work for somebody that is cheap and they gave you a crappy bonus, and it's the first time you've gotten a bonus from them, I usually say one data point doesn't make a trend, but it does if you work for somebody cheap. If they underpay you one time, it's not going to get better, dude. Yeah. And channel that frustration and take my complete job course to get a better job, or take my complete business plan course to start your company so you can live your life in your own terms. All right. And then, so Tian is saying, how can we balance it, knowing when and what to ask? Then you wrote, actually, that was my previous question that didn't get answered from you last week. Yeah. So the way it works is with these weekly calls, I have to end it at 11 a.m. because at 11:15 a.m. for a couple hours, I have MBA office hours for my students in my MBA degree program, right? They can ask questions. And then also what I do is I then do one-on-ones with my MBA degree students. And we have 20 minutes for each one, which is why I've got that timer up there as well. So anyway, yeah. But I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them. And if I don't answer them or don't get to them, just repaste them again, please, next week. Thanks. All right. George is saying, I'm 68 years old and I'm in between opportunities. What software do you recommend that I learn? Oh, I love this question, George. And George, welcome to the call and thank you. Great question. So it doesn't matter how young or how old you are. You can always start over by learning a new skill online for a very low price. So I'm going to show you what to do. You're going to love this. This is awesome. Okay. So there's this incredible woman named Angela Yu. So do a search online for Udemy, Angela Yu. And Angela is a doctor from England. And I met her actually last year when I was in Berlin. That's where I bought this at Checkpoint Charlie. It's part of the Berlin Wall. And Angela, she's larger than life. But she teaches. She was a doctor for a while, and then she's like, I don't want to be a doctor anymore, man. I want to teach. And so she started teaching technology. And she is unbelievable. So I recommend you start with this course here. It's the complete 2020 web development bootcamp. So learn how to code. 30-day, 100% money back guarantee as always. So I would start with this one. Anybody can make a website. It's so easy. It's so fun. You don't have to know how to code even. It's fun. Then after you do that, if you have an iOS handset, meaning iPhone, you can take this thing here on how to make an app, this course. She's got a lot of great courses. So I would start with this one first. The complete 2020 web development bootcamp. It's amazing. You'll absolutely love it. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain because there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. And I don't get any brownie points for mentioning that stuff from Udemy because Udemy, it's an algorithm and it's like educational Darwinism. The best courses rise to the top, which is why her course is right at the top as well. So that's where I'd start. Take her courses. And also take courses from another dude in England, a buddy of mine named Rob Percival. And Rob and Angela both are British, so they speak gooder than me. But it's true though, dude. Anybody with a British accent, I don't know why. Maybe it's a Commonwealth thing. I'm from Canada. I always think that they're just smarter, or they speak good, or they're more articulate and stuff. Yeah. All right. Next question is, how do rich people manage their family life? I've heard that they work 18 to 20 hours a day. How do they balance their life? Yeah. So I think that the more busy you are, the more stuff you get done. Now, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. I'm going to show you what I use. All right. So my MBA degree students, what I've done is I've created this process where they can actually plan out each day. With the blame all over there. Plan out each day with the system I developed, and I give them this in either PowerPoint version, LibreOffice, PDF version, as well as OneNote, many form factors, and so they can do this digitally to plan each day. And then they score themselves at the end of each weekday as well, right? So this is a high-end version of it. I have a free version for my non-MBA degree students, which is here. And I'll provide you the link in a second to download this. But basically, what I think very successful people do, and I think success is not rich people, but success is people that have a good balanced life and they love what they do and they're in good shape, whatever, and they make the world a better place before they move on. But I think that what really successful people do is they stay busy and they plan each day, kind of like a business plan. And so what I do is I use the higher end version of the daily planner, which my MBA degree students use. But here's one I used to use, and I'm going to give this to you in a second. It's free. What I do is I schedule each day, okay, every night at 9 p.m., weekdays at least. And I schedule even in, time for sleep, how many hours of sleep, try to get 7 or 8 hours every night. Gym time, 20,000 steps, which means 10,000. And then what I do is at the end of the day, before I make tomorrow's schedule, I score myself and I'll take off points. And we're all different, but for me, I put God up here. If I didn't say prayers, I'll take off a lot. If I didn't spend time with family, I'll take off a lot. If I didn't, put customers first, I'll take off a lot. If I didn't get all my meetings done here, I take off a bit as well. And at the end of the day, I score myself out of 100%. So it's highly subjective. And I'm going to give you this template, and you can completely customize it as well if you want to. And so what you need to do is go to my website, which is Haroun Education or Haroun Ventures, same thing, / all lowercase, schedule. Yeah. And then what you can do is you can download that file right here, the one I just showed you. So let's download. All right, I'll open up, it's in PowerPoint, and this will open up in LibreOffice, which is free version of presentation software. It's kind of like Microsoft Office, but free. And basically what you do is you customize this yourself. Okay? And you could get rid of stuff that's not important to you. And at the end of the day, you score yourself down in the bottom right-hand corner. And I even schedule here time for a walk, because I know Steve Jobs used to go on walks every day at 1 or so. And that's when you release endorphins and serotonin in your brain. I'll schedule in elliptical trainer as well. My garage, my used elliptical trainer, weights with Andrew. My son, go to bed, family time, etc. And I've got other stuff here that's kind of personal to me. Like wash my face twice a day. Otherwise, it's a disaster. I don't want to go there. Yeah. Anyway. And then did I also prepare my meals? Did I put customers first? Did I not surf the internet too much? Did I not check emails too many times? That sort of thing. Yeah. And this is kind of old for me. This is just a bunch of courses and deadlines I had. And I write down my to-dos daily here and all this stuff as well. Yeah. So download it and check it out. I promise you, if you do that, you'll get a lot more stuff done daily, because if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. All right. Turn on the AC. I will put my Berlin Wall back. All right. What do we have next here? All right. Next up is Sean. Sean is saying, I've seen that you're a very humble person. And I believe humility is indeed a virtue. However, a common issue I've observed is that a lot of employers or coworkers misunderstand it as lacking confidence. Oh, I love this. What is the solution to that? Yeah, thank you, Sean. It's a great question. And for years, I used to think to myself, is kindness a sign of weakness? And I thought people kind of took advantage of me for just trying to help others. But I really do believe in the whole give and take mentality. And there's a great book called Givers and Takers. And in that book, the author brilliantly explains how the poorest 1% of people in the world are givers, people with beautiful souls like Mother Teresa. And the middle 98% of people are takers. Most people take. And the top 1% of people in the world, the richest people in the world, whatever, are givers. And the reason they became successful, one of the reasons, is because they helped a lot of people. And some people call it karma, some call it karma synchronicity, call it whatever you want. But if you help people and you really do it for your heart and you don't do it because you want something in return, if you help people, eventually good things will happen to you. Okay. It's kind of like mentoring people. Everyone's got to mentor people and be mentored as well. If you mentor people that are younger than you, then you're you're helping them, which feels great, but you're also reminding yourself of what's important in your life in order to be successful. Because when one teach, two learn. Yeah. But I know what you mean by that. I think that I think if people see you as being very generous but not confident, that's your perception of what they think. And as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So who cares what other people think? Yeah. But I promise you, if you're a giver, it sounds like you are, that in the long run, you'll be so much more successful than you ever dreamed possible. You know, and it's having a sense of purpose as well is important. Like, you know, leaving this world in a better condition than when you left it, and helping other people as well. It just feels so good. So help as many people as you can. And when I used to work for other people, it was so interesting. Like I'm humbled to say I did okay, but I would always have my bosses in every company, almost every company, and they sit down with me to discuss my annual review. And they say, Chris, you're doing a great job, whatever. Everybody loves you. However, is there a way that you can maybe spend a little bit less time mentoring people in other departments? And I always respectfully and politely said, no, it's who I am. It's the DNA sub-fabric of my essence, who I am. It makes me happy to help people. You know, it's like if you have $1 and you spend that dollar on something. You know, retail therapy doesn't work. You'll feel okay maybe for like this long. But if you give that dollar away to somebody to really enhance their life, you'll feel so happy. You know, I think you need to serve others, to help others. And it's great to have a sense of purpose knowing that maybe you're making the world a better place by helping other people. And if you work at a company, if you really, really believe in your heart that you're helping people's lives get better by selling your product, then God bless you. You got a great gig. Hang on to that. But if you're working in a job where you don't feel like you're making the world a better place and something is missing deep, deep down your heart, there's an emptiness, like that rotting feeling you feel the first time you got dumped. You know what I mean? That gap. If you have that gap in your heart, work-wise, then you're not doing the right thing. You're not working in a career that was meant for you. So keep searching, because like true love, pardon me, when it comes to your career, you'll know when you find it. And then Atul wrote, thank you, Chris, for everything you do. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. All right. Problem is I talk so darn much, sometimes my voice goes, but I've got this, I got this product here. I feel like I'm on the Truman Show. Great movie. You guys got to watch it. So it's called Throat 37. And I recommend getting it if you give a lot of presentations or interviews, whatever, and your voice is going. Opera singers use this. And what it does is it actually, it clears your throat. I always feel way better than I sound, by the way. I'm always great. I always feel great. So give me a second. I'm going to put this in. I'll put you on mute here. I'm back. my voice is back, sort of, I think. Yeah. That's why I use this as well, to keep it hot always. Yeah, give me a second here. All right. I feel great. I do. Melody wrote, Chris, you're so right. Relationships are so important. I focused so much in school on grades. I was not thinking about the relationship components. Then you wrote, I'm realizing that relationships are key in a job and being an entrepreneur. Absolutely. A great entrepreneur is a great salesperson, and a great salesperson has great relationships. So always bond before business. And there's so many ways to do it. Like before you meet with a potential customer, go to their Twitter profile and see who they follow. If they follow a bunch of sports teams and you're also a fan of that sport, find a way to indirectly bring that up in the conversation with them. Just bond with them. And I love baseball. I am so passionate about baseball. And whenever I meet somebody from a different location in the United States, I always talk baseball, always. And I got to show you this one here. So this here is an autograph. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit here. Hold on. Still haven't figured out the white balance on this. This here is an autograph I got from Joe Carter when he played for Cleveland when I was a kid back in the 80s. And I also got a guy named Ron Kittle. He hit 3 home runs one year, I think. Yeah. Joe Carter. Yeah. And Julio Franco as well. That guy played till like he was 48. He was awesome. Here's Joe Carter before he played with the Blue Jays. And so I absolutely love baseball. And so whenever I meet somebody from a different city in America, the first thing I'll talk about is my love for baseball or whatever city they're from. Like if I meet somebody from Baltimore, I'll talk about the Iron Horse, Cal Ripken, who played like 8 million games in a row. If I meet somebody from New York, I'm always careful because I don't know if they're a Yankees fan or Mets fan. But if they're a Yankees fan, I talk about the Mets fan, I talk about the 86 World Series, the best World Series ever. If they're a Yankees fan, I'll talk about Derek Jeter and the prophetic impact he's had on my son's life. My son, Andrew, this guy here in the blue shirt, he was born in New York City, and he loves Derek Jeter. And it killed me for a while because I'm a Blue Jays fan from Toronto. And he put a big fathead poster on his wall of Derek Jeter, who's a New York Yankees player. But I'm cool with it, though, because Jeter's a great role model. And so Andrew, years ago, what I do in the summers is I make my kids read every day so their brain doesn't turn to rock. And the way it works is if they read within 1 hour of waking up, they only have to do like 45 minutes. Otherwise, they have to do an hour. Right? And I'm trying to incentivize it to do earlier in the day too because you're fresher then. And so I said you can read whatever you want. And he read a book on Derek Jeter. Brilliant book. And so Derek Jeter was very, very successful in all aspects, all aspects of his life, every aspect, because of one thing, his parents. And his parents got divorced when he was younger, but they still did a great job raising him. And when he was 9, every year they made him write a 1-page contract. And the title of his book that my kid read is called The Contract. And on that contract is a 1-pager that lists maybe 10 things. Like, this year, I will make my bed every day. I will be polite to my mom and dad. I'll be good to God. I'll do my homework and get B's or A's if I can. And that 1-pager would go on his wall. And I have my kids do it as well. And my students as well. It's rudimentary goal setting. Right? It's kind of like a gap analysis. There's where I want to be. Here's where I am today. How do I fill the gap? And so anyway, but if I meet somebody from New York and they're a Yankees fan, I'll talk about what I just talked about with Derek Jeter. Yeah. Sports is great for boardroom talk. It really, really is. And it goes for if you meet people from all over the world. If I meet somebody from Brazil, I'll talk about how I had the incredible privilege when I was a kid to have seen Pele play when he played for the New York Cosmos against the Toronto Blizzard. And I went to a game. Yeah. Sports is great boardroom talk. Find something in common always. It's a great anchor, a way to bond with somebody. And maybe it's something as simplistic as movies. Like if the Oscars were on last night, for example, and you're meeting with a potential customer or in an interview, chit chat about the Oscars, about movies that inspire you. But you want to find something in common. So if you go to somebody's Twitter profile before you meet with them, you can learn a lot about them, which will help you out tremendously. And sometimes people follow politicians. Don't do that because half the people won't like you. I don't know what half. But if you know what politicians they follow, you'll know not to say certain things maybe in an interview or a meeting with a potential customer. Yeah. So always bond before business. All right, Gustavo is saying, generally the 3 risks of a startup are product, team, market. Do venture capital firms primarily invest in your company as long as you've handled 2 of the 3 risks? Is the product the most important? No, product is not the most important. The most important is the team. Ideas are commodities, but execution is not. And so successful venture capitalists, they all understand that the jockey is much more important than the horse. And I remember when I used to work in venture capital, and we partnered with a venture capital firm on a deal called Kleiner Perkins. And I went over to Kleiner, and it was great. I got to meet with Mary Meeker, John Doerr. Al Gore was in the office as well. I didn't recognize him. He looks a lot different now. And there's this guy there that I met, really nice guy, brilliant man, named Randy Komisar. And Randy was the general partner at Kleiner Perkins that helped Kleiner Perkins make billions of dollars when Google bought Nest. And Nest, we all know, is the company that makes those thermostat things. And I asked Randy, I was like, Randy, how did you do it? Like, how did you know this was the great deal? Did you look at the product? Was the product amazing? Was the software great? He said, no. When I first met with the founders of Nest, a couple of them came in, they were incredibly passionate. And they showed me this little round piece of wood. And they said, this is what the product is going to look like. But he said they were so passionate and convincing that I had to invest in them. And so successful investors know that you invest in people first and product second. And we all know in venture capital that a company is going to change a lot over the years. And we just want to make sure that whoever is running that company is so passionate that they'll be able to sell their dream, even if they pivot and the business model changes. It's like Maya Angelou said, people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And when I meet with startups, and I don't really do any more investing, I just invest in my kids, or my students, I should say, just helping them out humbly if I can. But when I used to meet with startups, I would think of myself as a customer buying their product. And did I get excited? Was there a little bit of lightning in the bottle when they were pitching their business model to me? And if they got me excited and I felt it deep, deep down here, then I know that if their business model pivots, and they all do, they all change their business models over time, that they'll still get potential customers excited. And the poster child for this is Mark Benioff from Salesforce.com. For years and years and years, and I met him a number of times before Salesforce went public, he got me and everybody excited about cloud software. Cloud software is just about the most boring thing you can possibly talk about. And they call these amazing salespeople in software evangelists because they're selling something you can't see, feel, or touch. But he made us all so excited about cloud software. Lightning in a bottle. That's what you got to look for when you invest in a startup. Not only looking at the great business model, all that stuff, but the management team first. And the problem with business schools, they never teach you how to assess a management team. They just tell you build out a financial model and, hey, if the numbers go up, then it's a good investment. Rubbish. I say before you think about investing in a company, you look at the management team first. Do they excite you? Can they sell with passion? Hey, Victor, how are you? And Melody said, you can't care what others think. If you do that, you'll never be happy. Completely agree. Completely agree. You'll always be their prisoner in your own mind. Absolutely. And I think really successful people are successful because they don't give a damn what people think of them, and they never have. I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous, but you just got to say, this is my life. I'm going to live it my way. I'm going to fail a lot until I find happiness. And I don't care if along the way people think poorly of my decisions in my career, because those that mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. And I don't give a damn what people think of me. That's what you got to say. I just don't care. Try it with me. Say, I don't care about what people think about X. Write that down 10 times and solve for X. It's therapeutic. I don't care what people think of my hair, which went gray actually in my 20s. And I did kind of a bad job dyeing it and kind of going bald there. So I'm trying to little comb over. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for the awful genes. I'm just kidding. I did an awful job of that. Look at that. Yeah. But I don't care. I don't care what people think of my career. Like for a couple of years when I first started teaching online, I get calls from venture capitalists and hedge funds saying, are you done with this teaching thing? Do you want to come work for us? I don't care. I don't care what people think of me. Try it. I don't care what people think of my solve for X. Do it 10 times for 10 different things. And if you do it and you really believe in your heart, then you're going to reach this awesome level of nirvana that you've never felt before. It's so liberating. It's kind of the feeling is like when you hold your kid for the first time. And for those of you that don't have kids yet, I'm jealous because you're going to get to feel this feeling soon. But when you hold your kid for the first time, you feel a sense of unbelievable euphoria and happiness, a feeling you never thought you could feel before. It's like you're leveling up in a video game, an unexpected level up or whatever bonus. It feels amazing. When you live your life on your own terms and you don't care what anybody thinks, you feel something like that. Not as good as holding your child, but you get that lightning in a bottle. And it's your eureka or aha moment in your life. When you find what you're passionate about as well, and you don't give a damn what people think of you, then you're going to be the happiest person on the planet. And when you're happy, you'll do great things. And when you're happy and do great things, you'll make this world a better place by the time you leave it. All right. Atul is saying, as you said, I have a 1 month off and nothing to do. I thought about watching Netflix. It's my passion, watching Netflix. You know what, dude? Maybe you should be a filmmaker then. Maybe you should start editing videos. Maybe you should start teaching at home and editing your videos like a film producer does. Maybe that's your passion, your calling. This is a prop. It's fake. I'm a fraud. But when it comes to, this is a replica, obviously. These 5 circles here represent the 5 original branches of the academy. These are film canisters. And making a movie involves acting, directing, producing, the technical stuff, editing, etc. If you love watching Netflix, like you mentioned, maybe you should make movies. Or maybe be a writer, write a screenplay. Or take more videos of your kids or things in life and make videos of them. Or maybe start putting your stuff on YouTube. YouTube is the biggest gold rush in history, because the only gold rush that costs you nothing to make the product, and it's the only gold rush in history where you get access to billions of potential customers in a nanosecond. Maybe that's your calling. If you love movies. And if you love movies, you probably love being inspired. So maybe you should inspire other people as well by teaching online. Everyone's got something to teach. And when one teaches, two learn. Victor is saying, I want to be saving money and in order to invest in my own project later. I live in Morocco, and the savings interest rate is very, very low. What do you recommend for me? Yeah. So the worst investment you can ever make is cash, because you can't control how much your government is going to make of that stuff. And it's so unfair that we live in a world where we work hard to make money, and then our governments can print a lot more of it and basically dilute your net worth. Therefore, cash is the worst investment in history. Make sure you diversify: stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, etc. And to learn how to do that, you can sign up for my MBA degree program, which has a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. Or you can take one of my finance courses on Udemy as well. Jose wrote, thanks for your previous responses, Chris. My pleasure. Follow-up question. Is teaching the only thing you do for a living at this time, or do you do consulting, investments, or other things on the side? Yeah, I mean, I have investments as well, but I teach. That's all I do. That's all I ever want to do. That's all I'll ever do for the rest of my life. I love it. It's fun. And I've already created a couple hundred hours of new content this year for my MBA degree program, and answering questions as well for my MBA degree students. I do what we're doing right now with my students one-on-one and in small groups for hours and hours and hours. Every day I teach. It's fun. Sundays for my family, of course. Hey, Christine and my kids. Yeah. But this is what I do, and this is all I'm ever going to do. And every day that I'm not focused on making my students' lives better is a wasted opportunity and a waste of a day for me. We have other investments too. Like we just bought a building in London, Ontario. I was actually born in London, Ontario. My dad was he was a doctor there. He immigrated from Egypt there. Hey, Dada, if you're watching, I love you, and Mom too. Yeah, I love you both the same. Okay. No. But we just bought a building because it's right by the University of Western Ontario, and education is countercyclical. We got a great deal, and the mortgage we got actually. We have 5 tenants already, and those 5 tenants are more than covering the monthly mortgage. Yeah. So and everyone's freaking out right now. And the best time to invest is when everyone else is freaking out. When there's blood in the streets, as some people say. Or as Warren Buffett said, you want to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. So I've done the most investing I've personally done this year I have in ages, because the world's on sale. Yeah. But I don't do like, no, I don't, like I get offers to do keynotes and stuff. And even like before this COVID stuff, people would offer for me to do keynotes all over the world. I can humbly say, and I turn them down because I want to focus on my students and my kids. I want to be that dad that's always home. You know, I don't want to be that dad where my kids look up in the sky and they see an airplane and they're like, oh, there's daddy. I want to be here for them. I can't get that time back. Next one is, hi, Chris, how are you? What do you think about Gary V? I think he's great. So for those of you not familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, he's this dude from the East Coast, and he's a bit abrasive, but he's so transparent, and you grow to love him. You grow to love him. So he's this social media pioneer. And don't take advice from me for social media stuff. Take advice from him. And he actually came up with this concept of repurposing content, and I use it. And my dad told me, you know, only take advice from successful people. So let's take advice from Gary V. Here we go. Let's do this together. So do a search for Gary V. Okay. And then click here on his website. And if you're not sure what social media stuff to use, go to the bottom of his website. This is what I do. And whatever order he has these social media logos in is what you should be doing in this order. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and podcasts. Yeah. And he used to have Method here as well. He got rid of it, and so did I. I don't like that platform at all. And then what you can do if you want is, let's see here. Yeah. Go right here. It's called 86 Pages of Insanity, the Gary V content model. And then it's just an 86-page presentation. You can click through the slides, and it talks about the content pyramid. and how to create content and how to think about content and how to repurpose content. He's had a big impact on me as well. His books are awesome too. Again, some people think he's abrasive, but he grows on you. He grows on you because he's transparent. He's real. He's real. He's honest. And he gives away a lot of content. And I really do believe that if you give, you will receive in the long run. And he's certainly received, but he's still giving a lot too. I think he has a big heart. Yeah. All right. Hold on a second. And if I missed anyone's question in the middle, just paste it again, please. Thanks. Vinay. Hey, Vinay, how are you? I worked with a guy at Accenture years ago in Canada named Vinay Gupta. Great guy. Vinay is saying, hello, sir. Call me Chris, please. I don't know much about business and finance. Please tell me where to start. I want to learn and grow in this pandemic period. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you for the question. I appreciate it. What I recommend doing is the best advice I can give you is go to my website, which is Haroun Education or HarounVentures.com. They all forward to the same place. And when you're here, click here and enroll in my MBA degree program. You could start today. Okay. It's several hundred hours. It's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. So you can even binge watch and then ask for your money back after 29 days. I don't care. And you can look at the frequently asked questions here. And then I've got testimonials and their LinkedIn profiles from my students all over the world that have signed up. They're awesome. Hey, Vital, how are you? My students all over the world. And you can even watch a couple of free lectures here as well, right? So click any of these, preview. But that's what I recommend, because that will give you a comprehensive business education at a very, very low price. And you'll learn only practical stuff and nothing theoretical. And again, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, 100% money-back guarantee. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. All right, next question is, hey, Chris, hey, do you think that there will be any further innovation in financial services? Please explain. Yeah, I do. So the reason we haven't seen much innovation in traditional healthcare and financial services compared to other sectors is because there's been a massive amount of government regulations. And what we're seeing is the walls coming down, especially for healthcare, given COVID, right? A lot of companies are able to innovate and, speed up the release of their drugs through the FDA, especially if it helps with COVID, et cetera. When it comes to financial services, we have seen deregulation as well. And a lot of the largest investment banks in the world have massive venture capital divisions, like Citi, for example. So Citi Bank, big American company, of course, headquartered in New York. They've got a department out here in Palo Alto, called, they're on University Street in Palo Alto, called Citi Ventures. And they're the largest venture capital financial services firm in the world, right? They invest just a ton of money. And all large investment banks do a lot of venture capital investing as well in software companies that can help to make their companies more successful, financial services stuff. And I used to be on the advisory board of Plug and Play Tech Center here in the Bay Area on their fintech board. And I would help them to choose companies to invest in when it comes to fintech. And there is a ton of money right now in this industry, a ton of money going into fintech. We need a lot more competition. Competition is great for the consumer. Like in this day and age, I can't believe that there's only a handful of credit card companies. And that's why these terrible oligopolies get away with charging us 20% interest. It's crazy. There's room for a hell of a lot more competition. And probably one of the most important subsectors within fintech or financial technology now is payments. There's a gazillion new payments companies getting created every month. It's awesome. And for some reason, Ireland with Stripe and other companies has been dominating. Maybe it's because taxes are low in Ireland, only like 11.5% tax for multinationals. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for innovation until fees go to nothing. Like what Robinhood has done, a great brokerage firm with zero commissions, What they've done is so disruptive that other firms like Fidelity are trying to copy them with 0% or with free commission, no commissions on buying stocks, etc. Competition is good for the consumer, and we're just getting started. There's so many hidden fees in financial services, and there's so much room for disruption by companies like Robinhood, etc. Until fees go down tremendously in all major financial asset classes, I think we're going to see a ton of fintech innovation. A lot of companies being birthed that will help to kind of level the playing field globally. So there really is friction-free capitalism from a low fees perspective, because a lot of these banks charge ridiculous, even freaking like bank machines. If you go to a bank machine that's not your bank, you still pay nutty high fees. It's criminal. It's criminal. Competition is good for the consumer. We've seen a ton of innovation, especially in cryptocurrencies. And if you want to learn more about cryptocurrencies, you can take my course on Udemy called the Complete Cryptocurrency Course. It's 24 hours long. I teach you everything about how to analyze cryptocurrencies using stuff I learned on Wall Street. But there's a ton of innovation in cryptos right now going on. Not just the companies that create cryptocurrencies or blockchain, but also wallet companies, exchanges, etc. The Winklevoss twins have gotten involved in Gemini, which is their financial services-based crypto exchange. There's so much innovation going on right now in that sector. Next question is, what do you feel about investing in oil companies? Because I've heard many people saying that oil is not going anywhere in the next 4 to 5 decades. Yeah, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. So 5 years from now, yes, people will be using, more battery operated cars. Absolutely. Absolutely. But every company is worth something. There's value in everything. Do I think oil will have a negative price like it was recently in the futures markets? No. That was just kind of an aberration because there's just no demand for oil right now. And a lot of tankers are sitting there at full capacity, carrying lots of oil, costing a couple $100,000 a day to store it, each tanker, which is why the price went negative briefly. People get emotional. People get really, really emotional about stocks. I think there will be demand for oil. I think it will keep going down, kind of like demand for coal has been declining and will forever, I hope. And actually 1/3 of all pollution here in the Bay Area is from mainland China. Largely the disgusting, belching of coal, filth, pollution in the skies. So I think that demand for coal and oil will go down dramatically in the very, very long run. Yes. But everything is worth something. Everything is worth something. And a lot of these oil companies will make it, and a lot of them will be great investments. Yeah. But if you're investing for the next 50 years, oil companies are loser investments. But if you're investing just for a decade or so, I think there's enough companies on sale right now. I'll never tell you which ones. I'll teach you how to fish. I'll never give you a fish. But Warren Buffett once said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. And that's certainly what's happened with a lot of oil companies recently. Yeah, there is value out there. Next question is, hi, Chris. One of a close friend asked me to become an advisor and head of sales and marketing for his startup. I want to study all these skills and I want to be part of that. Please advise. Yeah, great question. Thank you. So the most important skill set you can have in business, period, is the ability to sell. And networking is key. And your net worth is your network. And so like great entrepreneurs and CEOs and partners in law firms and venture capital firms, they're all salespeople. That's how they got there. And so what I recommend you do actually is go to my website and you can download my networking book for free. Okay, so let's go to HarounEducation.com or HarounVentures.com. They all forward to the same place. And scroll down to the bottom on my homepage. And you can download my networking book for free. Because I promise you that relationships are more important than product knowledge. And so if you take this gig with your buddy, and if he gives you a legal contract to sign, hire your own lawyer to read it first, please. I want to protect you and your family. But if you take it, your ability to sell that product is not predicated or based on how knowledgeable you are on exactly how that software product works. The most important thing for you if you're selling, especially software, is relationships. And that book I just showed you is a couple hundred pages. It's free. It'll teach you how to get networking meetings with anybody. It'll also teach you how to bond. And bonding is the most important thing in business. And a big rookie mistake is people show up to meetings to sell something and they jump right into business. You have to bond. Bond about something you have in common, like your love of baseball or whatever it is. Talk about the weather. But just always bond before business, because relationships are always more important than product knowledge. And Gordon is saying, give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. I want to go check to see if there's any audio issues or any video. Okay, I don't see them. All right, good. Hold on a second. All right, Gordon is saying, hi, Chris. I joined your MBA degree program in April. Excellent. Thank you. And then you wrote, I love your unique style. From a networking perspective, is commenting on others' posts as effective as starting a new post? Yeah. So I think that once you start learning social media and how to do it, a great way to kind of dip your toe in the water is to, first of all, just retweet something. Or comment on posts, just to kind of dip your toe in the water and get a little bit comfortable with it. And once you kind of understand how it works, then you can start posting yourself. Yeah. But I love it when my students comment on my LinkedIn articles or my tweets or my YouTube videos, and I engage with them. I read every single comment, and a lot of times I'll comment back. I think it's a great way to start understanding how to use and leverage social media. And once you start to understand it, and we'll talk about this in a lot more detail in semester 3 in my MBA degree program, which you're signed up for, thank you. Once you understand how to leverage social media, you can take your business and your own, you being a thought leader perception to the next level. Because a thought leader is predicated on you thinking you're a thought leader and opining or giving your opinion a lot on social media. And I'll teach you how to repurpose content as well, and how to set up a great home studio using what you have. I don't want you to buy anything. I'm going to show you from scratch in this MBA degree program. I'll also teach you exactly how to leverage social media. Because YouTube is the only gold rush in history where it costs you nothing to make the product. And it's the only gold rush in history where you can get access to billions of potential customers immediately for free. It's a gold mine. And I'm excited that you're part of the course. Thank you. And if I can be resourceful to any way possible, ask me on this weekly call or within the course even. Thank you. Hey, Fred. Vipul is saying, Chris, are you learning something new these days? I think this is the first time to learn something new. I think this is the time to learn something new or something that we always wanted. I've just learned web development, and now I'm building a website. I love it. Yeah. If I'm not learning every day, I get bored. And the best way to learn something is to teach it. So a lot of times I'll do research on the stuff that I'm going to teach, because when one teaches, two learn. It's kind of like, remember when you were younger and maybe you're in math class and your buddy needed help with math. And so you helped him or her. And by teaching them, you were teaching yourself, and you did better in that course because of that. It's like that. When one teaches, two learn. So I'm always learning. I'm pushing the goalposts out as much as possible. Even like with the videography, like I make mistakes. Like I've got pedals down here, and I'm a one-man show. So this here, I have the pedals in order, right? So I can go between the cameras, okay? And that one there is on a slider, because I'm about to, once COVID is done, go out and interview CEOs and stuff for my MBA degree program. This one here, then I've got PIP, picture in picture right here. So I'm always learning. But what I've started to do was I'm starting to experiment with lighting. And so I've got these DJ lights, and this is moronic, but here I go. Yeah. So here it is right here. And the next thing I want to do is to control lighting as much as I can using these foot pedals, etc. They're cheap. I got them from a DJ company. They're or a company that makes DJ stuff. They're up there actually. They're hidden. There we go. It's off now. So I'm experimenting with that. I'm also experimenting with robotics and videography. And so I'm working on this robot arm to come up, because whenever I watch other people doing their shows, like the John Oliver show or whatever it might be, I want to compete with them. But I never want to have more than one person myself in this room. I want to do everything myself, everything. And I love teaching my students what I've learned. Like I've made so many mistakes. Like this is the product I use here. It's called Wirecast, which is like a free product called OBS, which stands for Open Broadcasting Software. But I'm always trying to push the goalpost out, as much as I can. I experiment a lot too, right? So and I make plenty of mistakes as well, right? Which you guys have seen my mistakes over the past 91 weeks. But I always want to be pushing the goalpost out until I get to a point where the quality of these webcasts, I can humbly say one day, hopefully, is better than what you see on television. But I only want to be an army of one doing this, because that way I can teach all my students based on the millions of mistakes I've made doing this. So you can also do this sort of thing at home, cheaper than I've done it and without making mistakes. Yeah. But I think when you stop learning, you kind of stop living. You always got to keep this sharp. It's like when people retire, like sometimes I hate to say this, but they pass on eventually too soon because they're not staying active. I always want to stay active. I'm never going to retire, by the way, ever, ever, ever. I'm gonna teach or die trying. It's something like a 50 Cent song or something. He said, "Get rich or die trying." But for me, I'm going to teach or die trying, and I'm trying. Yeah. So I just want to be able to push the goalpost out and always learn more and more and more. And if you compare what the webcasts look like in week number 1, 2, or 3 versus this week, which is week 91, we've gotten a lot better. And I added this clock up here too for my MBA degree students in the Platinum program, so that I can actually answer questions. And we're doing that today. They're 20 minutes each slot, one-on-one. Yeah. So it's been fun. But I'm learning stuff. I'm always learning. And my goal, and I've said this publicly, and whenever you come up with a goal, you got to set a deadline and you got to tell people, because it puts pressure on you in a loving way to get it done. My goal, and I said this around the first couple of weeks or so when I started doing this weekly webcast, my goal back then, I said, is in 10 years, I want to get an Academy Award for Best Business Documentary that makes the world a better place. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm trying. And so when I was a kid, I had a car in my room and on the wall, poster of a car I wanted. We have to be kids again. And so I got this. I'm a fraud. This is a fake. This is a replica of the real thing. I want to get an award in 10 years. It's now 8.5 years, right? So the clock's ticking. And so I got to make this stuff here better and figure it all out so I can get an Academy Award for Best Business Documentary that makes the world a better place. And this is a replica of the real thing. It's 13.5 inches tall, like 13 pounds. I'm weak. I can't carry it. But anyway, the reason most people fail with their New Year's resolutions is because they don't set a deadline date. So I set a deadline date. And so I hope I get it, or I'll look like an idiot. And even if I look like an idiot, I don't care, because I'm still learning. Yeah. And Melody said the book that I showed earlier by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends, Influence People is amazing. Really helped change my mindset. I agree too. It's great. Everyone's got to read it. It's a must read. Yeah. And then Vipul is saying, Chris, I just started your Financial Analyst course. Thank you. Do you recommend any books for learning finance, the stock market, as I am from the technology background? No. There's a couple of books I've mentioned before, like the Dan Midorian book on finance. He's a great NYU professor. But a lot of that stuff is theoretical. I don't think you can read a book and get better at investing. I recommend just... In my course, I teach you real life practical stuff that I've used when I had my own hedge fund, venture capital firm, when I worked at Goldman, etc. Yeah, you can learn a lot by taking courses from people, I can humbly say, who've actually done it instead of theoretical stuff. Yeah. All right. And Javier is saying, hi, Chris. Good to see you're doing well. I love your content. Thank you, Javier. Appreciate it. God bless you. And Javier is saying, in B2B, meaning businesses selling directly to businesses, in B2B, there are people who say cold calling is critical. Some say it's all online, using LinkedIn, for example, or all networking. I believe it is combined effort. What is your take on this? Thanks. Yeah. So I think that a successful person in business, a successful entrepreneur, CEO, whatever, founder, the ones that are successful are the ones that are excellent at networking. They realize that relationships are more important than product knowledge, and that you have to bond before business. And so cold calling is important, but you can't just cold call without a link or some sort of something you have in common. Okay. So what I recommend doing is going to my website. And what you can do is I give away this for free, HarounEducationVentures.com or HarounVentures.com. Scroll down, you'll see this book, networking book. It's a couple hundred pages. It'll teach you how to network. And there's a couple hours of YouTube videos I made for you as well. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. But what's key is finding something you have in common with somebody else. And I teach you a lot of those methodologies. And in my MBA degree program, I teach you much more on how to network on steroids. But if you find that you're sending a lot of LinkedIn messages and no one is responding, let me know here on this weekly call. Let me see your messages, and I'll humbly try to help you get one-on-one meetings. Yeah. And then Melody wrote, that's so awesome to have that museum rented. Yeah. Now I'm renting the Hiller Space or Aircraft Museum in this December, actually, for my MBA degree students. A lot of them are flying in from all over the world. It's going to be fun. It'll be fun. Yeah. Next question is, hi, Chris. I'm new to your courses. I know you're fond of Excel, which is a powerful tool. I see a trend in analytics where professionals are moving towards languages like Python, etc. What are your thoughts on embracing change? Yeah, I think Python's great. I think it's great. I think if you're doing data analysis stuff and you're just getting started, I would start with Excel because it's a lot of fun. It's easy to use, and you can create pretty powerful pivot tables and slice and dice data. And then what I recommend after Excel is to graduate to a more elaborate platform like Tableau, which was recently purchased by Salesforce. Or you can use products from other software companies like Hyperion, which Oracle owns, or Cognos, which IBM owns, or Business Objects and Crystal Report, which is owned by SAP. And then after you use those aforementioned products and you get really comfortable slicing and dicing with those really fun GUI interfaces, graphical user interfaces for data analysis, then you can move on to scripting, like JavaScript or Python. Python is the language du jour that seems to matter most. Now, I think the best way to learn Python is to take online courses. You can go to udemy.com, and I don't get comp for saying this, but I really do believe in their business model because Udemy is Google and everyone else is Bing when it comes to EdTech. But go to udemy.com and just search for Python, and you can take great courses there. And the next question is, hi, Chris. Do you think financial services will function post COVID-19? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the lifeline of every company and government is financial services. That's why banks are too big to fail. That's why banks were all bailed out. Love it or hate it, whatever. It is what it is in 2008. Yeah, I think financial services will function, definitely. I think in the long run, there'll be more competition through different types of currency offerings, like different payment companies. So we don't have to rely on this ridiculous oligopoly of Visa, Amex, American Express. And I think we'll see a lot more payment startups as well, commensurate with Stripe, Square, etc., which do their part in making commerce friction-free globally. And a lot more innovation in cryptocurrencies as well. Yeah. And if you want to learn about cryptocurrencies, I have a course, which I humbly believe is the most comprehensive course ever made on cryptocurrencies. It's called the Complete Cryptocurrency Course, which you can take on Udemy. Yeah. Next question is from Atul, who's saying, hey, Chris, I hope you're in good health. I feel great. Thank you. I always feel great. What will be the consequences of the U.S. defaulting on its debt since it now has accumulated a vast portion of it, approximately $20 trillion? Yeah. So I think the United States is too big to fail. And I say it because it would hurt China more than it would hurt America if the U.S. defaulted and couldn't pay its debts. And by the way, when a country's credit gets downgraded, it's usually a great buying opportunity in the markets. And I have a lot of precedents for this. Years ago, the United States debt was downgraded. Canada's debt was downgraded. Sorry, I got to wrap up the call in a minute. Canada's debt was downgraded, and Japan's as well. And when that happens, it's usually a great buying opportunity if it's a solid country. Now, when it comes to U.S. debt, I mentioned that America's too big to fail. So right now, the lowest risk investment, and they call it the risk-free investment class in finance, is U.S. Treasuries, U.S. government federal debt. Because the last company or entity, so to speak, that would default, and it's all relative, is the United States, which is about 1/3 of global GDP. And I think it would hurt China more. Because China is really, really reliant on exports to America. They're trying their best at China to create their own market internally so they're not reliant on the U.S. But as it stands right now, about 1/3 of the revenue on the planet, meaning GDP, is United States. And people don't realize this, but about 2/3 of the United States economy is consumer spending, not big business. And that's why people love to look at unemployment claims in America, as well as consumer sentiment and other indexes or economic data points that kind of take the pulse of the consumer in America. I think that if the U.S. defaulted, then China would be in big trouble because they own a lot of American debt anyway. And they also really rely on America when it comes to exports. And I think China's biggest fear, which explains why they do what they do, their biggest fear is civil unrest. And so what we saw in Tiananmen Square, the uprising, with that awesome guy, my hero, that stood in front of that tank, what we saw with Tiananmen Square in 1989 is the tip of the iceberg. China is really worried about civil unrest, especially as people move, into the middle class. They're really worried about it. There's going to be a food crisis in China by the year 2040. It's going to happen. So they're really, really worried about that. And so even China, and I hate to say this, but I have to always be transparent and tell you my feelings. But I was kind of upset with the Chinese government for not disclosing this COVID stuff faster. I mean, we're all in this together, man. And I think part of the reason why they didn't disclose it faster is because the riots, the civil unrest we saw in Hong Kong, where people wanted more human rights. Do you remember that? We kind of forget about that because COVID kind of stopped that. But my thought process is the Chinese government let COVID get a little bit out of control domestically, a little bit, so that everybody rioting in Hong Kong went home and stopped rioting. So anyway, those are my humble thoughts. And as always, I'm completely transparent. All right. There's just a ton more questions. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to get to them now because the call is over now. If you're my MBA degree student in the Platinum or Gold program, I'll see you on our For MBA Students Only webcast at 11:15 a.m. today. If you have a one-on-one today as well, and I'll check the calendar, I'm looking forward to talking to you all as well. And so this call, within 48 hours, if you go to the description field, what we do is I have somebody in my team write it up so you can click on any question to jump immediately to the answer. And we've done this for hundreds and hundreds of hours now. So that'll be online by this Saturday at the latest. If you subscribe to my vlog, I'll see you tomorrow on my daily vlog. Otherwise, God bless you. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday forever, starting at 8 a.m. San Francisco time. Thank you.